Chapter 1409. Face recognition? Dustless sneered. That brat Welslana was trying to get himself killed. He purposely gave the privilege of the white horse to Dustless in the hopes that Dustless could defeat him. All in all, this grimoire belongs to you in the future. Lucurezia waved her hand as if Prometheus's secret grimoire was an unlucky star. Do you think you can take it back? Dustless rolled his eyes. He didn't need anyone's permission to do such a thing. Oh, what an unruly brat. You don't even know how to be polite. Lucurezia stood up and pointed at the room at the end of the corridor. She didn't care that her hot body was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It's late. You two can sleep in that room tonight. No problem. Dustless nodded and walked over with the grimoire. No, how can I sleep in the same room with him? Erica raised her hands in apology and complained, how can a lady sleep with an unruly? Then you can sleep on the sofa, Miss Erica. Dustless glanced at the arrogant Erica and interrupted her rudely. He shrugged and said, I like to sleep by myself. Goodbye. Erica stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Dustless to be so unreasonable and barbaric. He didn't even have the most basic gentlemanly demeanor. In the end, she had no choice but to follow Dustless. Is your brain made of stone? Erica mumbled after she caught up with Dustless. Someone like me, I'm a snobbish person. You'll kick me out if I talk about gentlemanly. Dustless said rudely. Only an idiot would sleep on the floor instead of the bed. Welslana will be fighting another god tomorrow, right? I need to rest up for now. Staying here was just waiting for Welslana to come knocking on his door. After all, the chances of finding these gods were slim. The only way was to wait for them to come knocking on his door. Creak. She gently pushed open the bedroom door. The room that greeted her eyes was rather simple. Other than a bed and the necessary dressing table, there seemed to be nothing else. Go to sleep. Dustless pointed at the soft mattress and turned to leave. Are you planning to sleep on the sofa? Erica asked after a moment of surprise. She was even prepared to sleep on the floor. After all, there was only one empty room here. You believe the words of that witch? Dustless curled his lips and asked disdainfully. How could such a large castle only have one bed? Go ahead and sleep. If you don't have a place to sleep, I'll take Lucurezia's room for myself, Dustless said casually. Poochie. Erica couldn't help but smile when she heard that. After glaring at Dustless, she blushed and said, We're outsiders after all. Guests should follow the host's wishes. Let's rest together today. Dustless was taken aback. Soon after, he asked maliciously, Aren't you afraid that before you do anything perverted to me, I'll definitely kill you? Erica warned fiercely. Her tone was a little awkward. Although she said it casually, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Who would be able to let go of a man and a woman alone in a room? Especially now that she and Dustless had only met once. If it were someone else, it would be hard for them to accept it. I'm going to take a shower. Dustless stretched himself and said lazily. When he was about to open the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. That witch's personality is similar to that of the witch, and she acted so quickly. Mr. Godslayer, don't speak to me in such a resentful tone. I'm doing this for your own good. That little girl has a powerful background. She's your only knight. You have no conscience. You should thank me. Lucurezia said in a resentful tone as if she were a wronged wife. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine. Do you mean I should thank you? Dustless resisted the urge to rush out of the door. He said in a low voice, Your kindness is really unflattering. He might be misunderstood as a pervert or a pervert. That's not something I can control. Take care of yourself, young man. In my opinion, you and Kusanagi both have the potential to be playboys. Good luck. Lucurezia twisted her snake-like waist and left with a smile on her face. Ahem, Erica coughed dryly. She sorted out her thoughts and said, We do need to have a good talk. Dustless, who was in a dilemma, had to sit down on the ground. He curled his lips and said, Miss Erica, I don't think I need your help. As a god slayer, I'm the most desirable one for you sorcerers. Why is this guy so? Erica found herself speechless. She didn't have the right to negotiate with Dustless. She didn't even have a bargaining chip. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Dustless leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. After a while he started snoring. This guy is really good at pretending. I've never heard of anyone who could sleep standing up. Erica snorted, looking as if she couldn't be fooled. When she was about to expose Dustless, she suddenly caught the mischievous smile at the corner of his mouth, which gave her the creeps. Erica's idea of teasing Dustless vanished. She might even lose her life. There was no need to take the risk. This guy was so weird sometimes. She'll probably come tomorrow? Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. He muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Chapter 14:10. Erica had to admit the cruel truth. If you didn't kill the gods, it didn't mean that the gods wouldn't kill you. If the two gods fought, the island would collapse. No one would be able to stay out of it. As the saying goes, when the immortals fight, the mortals suffer. Are you two still going to stop me? Dustless asked while lying in Erica's arms. You. Lucrezia sighed. She had to admit that Dustless was telling the truth. Erica was also speechless. She clenched her delicate hand into a fist. However, in Dustless's eyes, it looked extremely fragile. This world was just so cruel. Humans were as insignificant as grains of sand. Even if thousands of them died, the gods wouldn't be moved. They were just ants in the end. I'll go with you. After a few seconds of silence, Erica said with determination, You once said that the king and the knight will never be separated. What a stubborn girl. Hearing this, Dustless broke free from Erica's arms. Under Lucrezia's shocked gaze, Dustless wasn't bound by the law of gravity at all. He flew up with Erica like a ghost. How did this guy do it? He only has the white horse power of Welslana. Where did this power of flight come from? Lucrezia asked with her beautiful eyes wide open. Due to the excessive shock, her magnificent cleavage was swaying back and forth, as if it was about to explode. Pervert. Erica snorted and glared at Lucrezia. Her angry eyes were obviously saying, How dare you seduce my king in front of me? You'll be here for a few days. Ah, young people nowadays are so petty. Good things should be shared. Lucrezia chuckled. Erica's red face was quite cute. She couldn't help but tease. Goodbye. Wu Qin turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the horizon, like a meteor gradually disappearing into the eye socket. After Dustless left, Lucrezia mumbled to herself, What a powerful and mysterious brat. This guy probably still has great strength. Maybe he can really slay a god and become a new surpasser. She suddenly felt that this boring world was much more interesting. How confident are you in taking down Mercado? Erica asked worriedly. After all, the opponent was a legendary god, and Mercado was not an ordinary god, but one of the strongest gods in Mediterranean mythology. How much? Dustless chuckled as if he had heard the funniest joke. You should be worried for Mercado. You should know that there isn't a suitable coffin on this island for him to use. You? Erica stared at Dustless angrily. He was about to become an enemy of a god, but this guy still looked so frivolous as if he was bullying a hooligan. Erica. The so-called gods are just a group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. There is no need to worry. Mercado is no match for me. Besides, he is not the only one who will die today. Dustless said ambitiously. Gods were superfluous. He had made up his mind to kill every god he saw in the future. He would purify the air. Stop right there, you idiot. Seeing that the distance between him and Mercado was getting closer and closer, Wu Qin raised his head and shouted. He didn't care about the existence of the storm. Your head is mine. After saying that, Dustless launched an attack with peerless power. A large amount of golden light appeared in his mythology, and some kind of power swept out from it. A mere human dares to stop the steps of a god. How dare you, a puny existence, speak rudely and call me a big guy? Mercado stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at Wu Qin. His eyes were frightening. Oh, it seems that you have some skills. This trick is not something that a normal human can have. Mercado looked up at the golden light above Dustless's head. Countless weapons were aimed at him. The momentum was quite huge. Gulp. What kind of god's power is this? Erica was also dumbfounded. Looking at the various divine weapons above Dustless's head, she was in a daze. It was the first time she had seen so many divine weapons. This is my king's treasure. The monarch's treasure contained many peerless weapons that could suppress a deity. Wu Qin did not say much as he explained indifferently. Have a good taste of the rain of bullets. He raised his arm and lowered it gently. Countless divine weapons shot out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Without exception, they all pierced mercilessly toward Mercado. There were so many of them that it was like a rainstorm. The dark night sky was suddenly dyed golden. Humph, I am a god. How can I be hurt by weapons made by humans? Mercado snorted disdainfully. His weapon, which was as thick as a scepter, swept out. Bang bang bang. All the weapons that fell down were scattered. They fell to the ground like scrap metal. The momentum of this magnificent attack was high, but the power was not impressive. You want to kill a god with this embroidered pillow? Human, there is something wrong with your head. Mercado sneered. He raised his strong arm and was about to wave the weapon in his hand to kill Dustless. However, he was surprised to find that his right arm could not move. He turned his head and saw that his right arm had been bound by an iron chain. This is really boring. Is the so-called God only at this level? He is as weak as a child. He doesn't even have the fighting spirit to move me. Chapter 14:11. Mercado looked at the iron chain wrapped around his arm. It was shiny and the surface looked like it was plated with gold. It looked very solid and hard. When did this guy attack? Why didn't I feel anything? Mercado murmured as he looked at Dustless. He pondered for a few seconds and asked, was the attack just a distraction? Your real purpose was to control me with this chain? When he was facing Dustless's attack, he was tense and didn't care about other aspects. Deceiving others? Stop trying to justify yourself. I didn't expect a god to be so thick-skinned. Mercado, you think too highly of yourself. Dustless said with disdain. There was no need to sneak attack Mercado. This guy was a big guy and his reaction was like a turtle. It was easy to deal with him. He could just use his advantage of speed to suppress him. Humph, puny human, do you think you can control me with this kind of scrap metal? Mercado sneered as he pointed at the light falling from the ground. It was obviously the weapon just now. He said with disdain, this broken weapon is a lesson. For a god like me, breaking it is just a small matter. As soon as he finished speaking, Mercado raised his sturdy arm and used all his strength to smash Dustless. Boom. The strange weapon also tilted down. The moment it was about to hit Dustless and Erica, Mercado's arm stopped above Dustless's head. What's going on? Erica was puzzled. She took the initiative to leave Dustless's side. She looked at it from another angle and found that Mercado was tightly bound by the previous chain. It was impossible to attack Dustless. A weapon that can bind a god? Is there such a powerful weapon in the world? Erica was quite confused. She was a knowledgeable person, but she had never heard of such a weapon. Compared to good separation sword, I trust Heavenlock more. Especially for you so-called gods. Heavenlock is simply a natural enemy to deal with you. Dustless explained softly. The moment Mercator was lifted up by the Heavenlock, it meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. His identity as a god had become his greatest disadvantage. The higher the divinity, the greater the effect of the Heavenlock. Tailor-made to deal with a god? That's the mortal enemy of the gods. Erica covered her mouth in shock, fearing that someone else would see her shock. You've comprehended it very quickly. That's what I meant. Dustless nodded faintly. To a certain extent, the heavenly lock was the natural enemy of God. Humph, funny. Mercado coldly snorted and laughed sarcastically. God's natural enemy? You're just a human. What do you take God for? This is blasphemy. If that's the case, then you can try to struggle out. Dustless calmly said. Meerkat wasn't strong, but his temper wasn't small. I'll destroy this broken chain right now for you to see. Mercado clenched his left hand into a fist. His eyes locked onto the long chain of Heavenlock, and he immediately used all of his strength to attack it. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of the explosion spread throughout the night. The violent fluctuations dug a deep hole in the ground, but the Heavenlock was still safe and sound. There wasn't a single scar left on it. How can there be such a weapon in the world? Meerkat said with a pale face. If the Heavenlock existed, wouldn't it mean that Dustless was invincible? It would be easy for him to deal with any god. Go to hell now. He glanced at it lightly. The void trembled slightly, and a strange spiral-shaped sword swept out. It was dark red in color. The moment it appeared, the void became solemn. To be able to die under this parting sword, it's not a disgrace to your name as a god. Dustless coldly stared at Meerkat. Such a big guy didn't seem to have any outstanding power. You would just kill him. Out of sight, out of mind. This is parting sword, yea? How can you have such a thing? Erica raised her voice several times. Her tone sounded sharp. You know it? Dustless was surprised. Explain it to me. Of course I know it. How can I not know such a famous divine weapon? Don't underestimate me. Erica rolled her eyes at Dustless and said in detail, Parting sword is believed to originate from Enki, the great god of Mesopotamia and Babylonia mythology. It is the narrative poem of the creation of Babylonia mythology. It is even rumored that this sword has the power to cut the world. By the end, Erica was already in a mess. The way she looked at Dustless had changed. It was as if she was looking at a super monster. First, he took out the Heavenlock that could bind all gods. Then he took out the parting sword that could destroy the world. How could the other god slayers survive? What is the background of this kid? Are these all usurped powers? Erica asked suspiciously. She was curious about Dustless's mysterious identity. Her unblinking eyes made Dustless feel uncomfortable, as if she had discovered a new continent. It can indeed cut the world. As the host of Wang Kaibao, Dustless naturally knew the power of parting sword. He had used it before and could easily cut the entire world. And the stronger the host was, the stronger the power of parting sword would be. Now you can die in peace, my Lord God. Dustless raised the parting sword and smiled. The word Lord God was full of endless ridicule, as if deliberately saying, so what if you are a god? You are still a clown who can't resist. A heaven lock and an extra parting sword was solved. Chapter 14:12. It was not that Dustless was looking down on Mercado, but the two weapons, parting sword and heaven lock, were more than enough to deal with him. Other weapons were simply superfluous. Disappear. After saying that, Dustless swung the parting sword in his hand. The crimson, violent air waves raged on the front end of the big sword. Crack, crack, crack. A very discordant sound came from the void. The crisp sound was depressing. The vast sky was as fragile as vegetables and fruits, and obvious cracks could be seen. Damn it. Mercado was full of regret. He tried his best to escape from the absolute restraint of Heaven Lock. However, the iron chain, which was only as thick as his finger, was harder than anything he had ever seen in his life. He could not shake it. Poof. Mercado, who could not move his body to avoid the attack, was instantly severely injured. His abdomen was directly penetrated. The huge wound, which was 5 or 6 meters long, shattered his internal organs. He could even see the world on the other side through the wound. So powerful. He killed Mercado, one of the strongest gods in the Mediterranean Sea, with just one simple move. Erica's mind was in turmoil. Looking at Mercado, who had been killed, she suddenly had the illusion that God was just an acquaintance of hers. He could easily crush Mercado with just one move. After being stunned for a while, Erica floated to Dustless and asked excitedly, "Did you succeed? Did you succeed?" Hearing that, Dustless just shook his head indifferently. He did not even look at Mercado's body. It was worthless and had no power to shine. "You've been hiding for so long. Are you still not coming out?" Ripples appeared in the sky. Dustless's voice spread far and wide. "Someone is here?" Erica immediately picked up her sword and stood in front of Dustless, full of vigilance. She looked around like a bodyguard. In Erica's words, a knight's duty was to protect the king. "He has been observing for a while. I thought that when I killed Mercado he would come out to stop me. After all, it was his gift." As he spoke, a purple-haired youth with a cape also floated into the sky. His calm eyes met Dustless's gaze. Even though he hid it well, the twitching corners of his eyes could still tell that the youth was not calm. The god of war of the East, Welslana. Dustless squinted his eyes slightly, and a hint of joy flashed across his brows when he recognized the identity of the young man. Dustless subconsciously touched the stone slab in his arms. For Dustless, Welslana was far more tempting than Mercado. In Dustless' eyes, the two were not even comparable. "You're really surprising." Welslana lowered his head. He had just witnessed the battle between Dustless and Mercado. Instead of calling it a battle, it was more like bullying a primary school student. "But I'm sorry, I'm not that stupid. If you want to kill me, you can't do it, young man." Welslana's tone gradually became cold. Compared to the last time they met, this time his tone was obviously heavier. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning suddenly flashed in the sky, and the thick lightning struck mercilessly toward Dustless and Erica. "Small tricks, use your own strength to deal with yourself." Dustless smirked. At the same time, he picked up the stone slab and aimed it at Welslana in the sky. "Don't mess around. If you use that magic book without permission, you may lose your life. I will not allow you to do so. Never." Erica stood in front of Dustless and said sternly, "A human's body would definitely die after using the stone slab. Do you still think I'm a human, Erica?" Dustless did not fight back. He pulled her to the side and aimed the stone slab at Welslana. He smiled and said, "This reckless guy is very arrogant. He deliberately left his power on the stone slab in the hope that I can defeat him. For this, he did not hesitate to give up his power. You are indeed very strong. I have to say, I did underestimate you before." Golden light floated in his hand, and a golden sword appeared in Welslana's hand. For some reason he suddenly regretted giving his power to Dustless. This kid was a dangerous person with extraordinary strength. If I don't use it, it would be a pity. Dustless's eyes lit up. He made up his mind to use the stone slab, and suddenly a large amount of white light shot out. Come and see, I will not lose to my own strength. Welslana roared. He held the sword with both hands and looked down at Dustless, or rather at his stone slab. What a crazy man. Seeing this, Erica sighed softly. She moved closer to Dustless's face and sneaked a kiss on Dustless's face while he was in a daze. She left a kiss mark on his face. The awkwardness and discomfort on her face disappeared completely. Erica said seriously, "This is a reward from a beauty to a hero. I just want to say that I've been taken advantage of by you. I'll definitely take it back in the future." Dustless stared at Erica's curvaceous body and said, "Brr, brr, brr." A majestic and scorching roar came from within the stone slab. Then a large ball of golden flames whizzed out from within the stone slab. A large white horse made entirely of flames rushed into the sky, its entire body burning with extremely hot flames. Boom, boom, boom. Welslana, who liked to fight head-on, was determined not to retreat. He focused on the incoming flame and raised his golden sword without hesitation. However, hope was beautiful but reality was cruel. Welslana was immediately dealt a fatal blow. A pillar of fire pierced through him. Chapter 14:13. The flaming horse hit Welslana without any surprise. Perhaps this guy wanted to test the power of his clone, so he didn't even try to dodge. With the golden sword in his hand, he took it head-on. You think I'll lose to my clone? In your dreams. Bathed in the flames, Welslana's arrogant personality didn't change. Although he was still uncomfortable from being roasted as time went on, he slowly got used to it. Sure enough, you can't trust other people's moves. With a light sigh, Dustless turned into a stream of light and disappeared, pouncing out at the speed of light. So fast. Welslana's pupils shrunk. He subconsciously picked up the golden sword, but he felt that his hands were empty. He subconsciously looked at his right hand. "Where's my golden sword?" Welslana said angrily. In the blink of an eye, his golden sword disappeared without him knowing. Could it be that Dustless stole it? Erica sharply guessed that this was the most likely possibility. The Prometheus secret book was used to steal the power of a god. Maybe the attack just now was just a cover, and this guy's real goal was to steal the golden sword that could split a god's divinity. Erica thought to herself as she looked at the light floating in the sky with anticipation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the sky the light gathered and a human figure appeared. The golden light was compressed into Dustless's back, and he was holding a golden sword in his hand. "TSK Welslana, thank you for your generosity. Jiang, don't you think this golden sword and my heaven lock are perfect together? One can split a god's divinity, and the other can bind all gods." Touching the golden sword with satisfaction, Dustless didn't care about Welslana's gloomy expression as he talked to himself. "Don't be too arrogant, human." Welslana roared. His face twisted as he said coldly, "It is indeed praiseworthy that you can steal my power, but that's only one of my many powers. It's not worth mentioning." Boom, boom, boom. As soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Boundless lightning poured down in torrents and all of them landed on Dustless's head. "How can such a weak attack work on me?" Looking up at the falling lightning, Wu Chen sneered disdainfully. Several black balls emerged from his body, which then turned into a circular shield to protect Dustless. The truth-seeking jade is not something that can be broken by such an attack. Dustless, who was inside the enchantment, was safe and sound. He could hear the loud explosion of the lightning striking the truth-seeking jade, but Welslana was probably very depressed. Even if he stood there and let him hit him, the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade was not something that could be easily broken. Even a god was no exception. Damn, why is the tortoise shell so hard? Welslana tried his best to summon lightning. Lightning filled the air under the stormy night sky, but when it landed on the defensive barrier of the truth-seeking jade, it was unable to move at all. This guy is a bit strange. I must take back the powers of the white horse and golden sword. Welslana clenched his fist and made up his mind. At the same time he heard a crisp cracking sound. Looking at the source, the truth-seeking jade's impenetrable exterior started to show signs of cracking. The attack worked? Welslana's face was filled with anticipation. Stupid, don't you know? I purposely released the defense of the truth-seeking jade, not your attack. Otherwise, how could I fight back? Dustless stepped out, and a large amount of light gathered at the tip of his foot. He lifted his foot slightly, and then a vast amount of light poured out and rushed toward Velislana in a straight line. Light speed kick. The light disappeared quickly and came quickly. When Velislana realized the danger, it was already too late. The golden light had already swallowed him completely. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions rose into the air, and the place where Velislana was standing became a huge flaming mushroom cloud. He was also affected, and his whole body was emitting black smoke. One could even smell the smell of barbecued meat that was filled with the smell of fire. Ugh. Smelling this disgusting seven tails, Erika's power started to churn. She couldn't help but feel disgusted. She knew that Velislana was burning. Barbecued god? Erika started to admire Dustless's courage. She thought to herself, this guy is definitely not a normal human. It's just that there's no magic in his body, and this powerful strength doesn't seem to belong to a god. This means that it's his own strength. Erika's eyes turned and revealed a wise and intelligent expression. I remember that among the few god slayers, only Jiangnan heroine Queen Luo Hao and Dustless's type are quite similar. Also, their names seem to belong to China. Could it be that the two of them have some kind of relationship? It was just as Erika guessed. Dustless and Luo Hao did have some kind of relationship. They were master and disciple type. You've committed a capital crime. I'll kill you. Velislana's furious roar came from the rolling, blazing fire. He never realized that he wanted to kill so much. He was in a terrible state because he didn't have a car. His hair was even set on fire. Although he put it out in time, it was still as messy as a chicken's nest. His face was also black like a coal miner who had just come out of a coal mine. His whole body was dirty and he didn't have the image of a god. People who didn't know him might think that he was a beggar. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to Velislana's clamor. He focused on touching the golden sword. After a while, his eyes flashed with excitement. I'll use you to test its power. Chapter 14:14. This guy wants to use me as a whetstone? Seeing through Dustless's intentions, Velislana's face suddenly trembled violently. He felt a great sense of humiliation. If he was killed by Dustless using his weapon, where would he put his dignity as a god? Although his dignity had been trampled on, he still had to make Dustless pay with his blood to wash away the humiliation. Aren't you very fast? Open your eyes and watch. Velislana shouted as he pointed at the sky with one of his arms. Then a big red bird circled in the sky. Is that a phoenix? Dustless frowned as he locked his eyes on Velislana. He knew the ability of this power, which could allow him to surpass his opponent's speed for a short period of time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As expected, a gust of wind swept up from Velislana's body, and then his entire body disappeared as if he had teleported. Bang! Dustless suddenly felt a strong attack on his chest. He reached out and touched it. His body was broken and there was a huge fist mark. What's going on? The sneak attack was successful. Velislana quickly retreated. He thought that Dustless would be severely injured. Who would have thought that he would be fine after being punched by him? The wound was only covered with golden light. What a strange ability. How many gods did this kid kill? If I knew that he had such terrifying potential, I wouldn't have given him the white horse. What a shame. Velislana was extremely gloomy. He finally understood the pain of overdoing it. It was all his own fault that he ended up in this situation. But, don't think that this is over. I won't give up so easily. Velislana clenched his teeth stubbornly. He would never back down. Roar roar roar. The divine beast's roar echoed in the sky. Dustless looked up and saw a majestic bull standing in the sky. Bull? Activating this ability, the host's strength seems to increase. Staring at Velislana's fist that had countless veins popping out, Dustless still responded calmly without changing his expression. Did he need to be afraid of elementalization? There was no need at all. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Velislana was as fast as lightning, and it was impossible for ordinary people to catch him with their naked eyes. They could only vaguely feel that the black shadow was rushing toward Dustless at an extraordinary speed. Got it? Velislana, who was very close to Dustless, roared, and his fist containing explosive power whizzed out and blasted towards Dustless. Bang bang bang. Dustless instantly exploded, turning into a myriad of photons that scattered to every corner of the sky. They were like countless fluorescent fireflies. Dustless. Erika's eyes widened and her voice was filled with sorrow. Dustless's figure and scent had disappeared without a trace, as if he had been killed by a single punch. He had completely perished. I killed him. Don't worry, as a god, I'm very merciful. I'll immediately send you to the underworld to continue your predestined relationship. Thank the greatness of the gods. Velislana spoke in an extremely arrogant tone, as if he was looking down on everything in existence. He can't be dead. Erica held the western sword in her hand, and her determined eyes were as bright as the stars. What an eyesore! Even a human can be such an eyesore. How annoying are you? Velislana said in disdain. Both of you can die together, this script is perfect. After saying that, he swooped down like a swallow. Erica's eyes were also determined, and her gaze that saw through life and death was moving. Humph! A mere human dares to be so arrogant in front of a god like me, this is blasphemy. You and that man just now both deserve to die. Velislana's whole body was stinging. Thinking of being roasted like livestock by Dustless, he was filled with resentment. A god was not a chicken, duck, goose or fish. Now his old face was still burning in pain, and his dignity was trampled on by Dustless. He was especially depressed. Both of you disappear together, and the humiliation I suffered today will be washed away, human. After saying that, Velislana's aura became even stronger. He was like a source of power, and high-density ripples kept erupting from his body, like water temperature, wave after wave, occupying the entire sky in an instant. Velislana, who fell with anger, was undeniably powerful. Even the heavens felt his will, and the energy ripples overflowing from his body fell with him, as if the entire sky was crashing down. Die. Velislana clenched his fist and laughed excitedly. Just as he was about to crush Erica, a golden light appeared above his head without warning. What is this? Feeling the sharp edge locked onto him, Velislana was shocked. He retracted his hand and looked up instinctively. The golden cold light mercilessly slashed at his head. In shock, Velislana quickly turned his head to the side. Pfft! Blood splattered in the air. Although Velislana avoided the fatal injury immediately, there was still a shocking crack on his back. Who is it? Holding back the pain on his back, Velislana stared at the light. A young man holding a light sword appeared above his head. You're not dead. The Dustless that came into view was completely unscathed. There was nothing wrong with him at all. Velislana's old blood spurted out uncontrollably. What was going on? He was hit with all his strength, but he was not injured at all. Did he have to be so overpowered? Whoosh! Dustless was silent. A layer of light flashed across his body, and in the next second, Dustless appeared in front of Velislana. He came and went without a trace. I'm not dead, but unfortunately you're going to die, Mr. God. The golden light gathered in his hand became brighter and brighter. Dustless stared at Velislana with a stern expression. He made up his mind and killed him instantly. Yasukani no Magatama. Chapter 14-15. Yasukani no Magatama. Dustless quietly approached Velislana, and the distance between the two was very close, so the dense flashes of light did not miss any of them, and all of them hit the poor god. Puchi, Puchi, Puchi. The power of the Yasukani no Magatama was undeniable, and the fierce light bullets all hit Velislana. As a god he was not easy to deal with. Even though his body was full of holes and there were burn holes everywhere, he still maintained his consciousness, even though he was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth. Ah, that's not easy, the body of a god is really strong. Dustless smiled lightly and there was a frivolous smile on his face. Looking closely, Velislana's body was like a hole, and Dustless even suspected that if water was poured in from one of the holes, water would flow from all over his body. Your vitality is really strong as expected of a god. Dustless rarely praised, and if it was an ordinary person, their body might have been pierced by the Yasukani no Magatama. However, these words were extremely harsh in Velislana's ears, and his eardrums were hurting, and in the end there were even deep red blood stains. UB*****. Velislana was furious and he resisted the urge to vomit blood, and stared at Dustless without blinking. His eyes were as sharp as knives and he wanted to turn him into a stick. That was the only way to vent his anger. Dustless was obviously mocking him, saying that only the weak would be beaten. It's almost time to end this. Dustless's eyes were cold, and he had no interest in continuing to play. Golden chains shot out from the void behind him, and they locked onto Velislana like a poisonous snake. The glowing chain was the heaven lock that Dustless used to bind Mercado. This is the heaven lock? Damn it. Seeing this, Velislana's pupils shrank and he couldn't help but step back. When Dustless used the heaven lock to bind Mercado, He clearly saw that Mercado couldn't break free. Therefore he was in awe of the heaven lock. All gods would be locked down. The greater the divinity, the stronger the person, the more they would not be able to escape the nightmare created by the heavenly lock. Trying to run? Erica strode forward and appeared behind Welslana. She stared at him unkindly and said, "Surrender. Your future has already been decided. You are nothing to be afraid of at all with your injuries." It's fine if that guy is a pervert, but even a witch like you is looking down on me? A murderous intent flashed across Welslana's scarlet eyes. He was extremely displeased with Erica's attitude. It was fine if she admitted defeat in front of Dustless. He had nothing to say. After all, he was not as strong as Dustless and his skills were inferior. But you, a mere human, have to see who you're dealing with before you get carried away, God. Then I'll kill you first. With a ferocious smile, Welslana's shocking hole was healed. Even the scars were not left behind. It was repaired in an instant. This seems to be the ability of male sheep. Dustless narrowed his eyes and said in realization. He was quite familiar with the ability of Welslana, the god of the army of the East. Recovered? Erica said in shock. Her hands, which were holding the sword, were already sweating. I'll start with you. With a cold smile, Welslana flashed and came in front of Erica. His golden sword had been taken away. Now he could only rely on his fists. But a god was a god. Even if it was just a simple fist, the power was extremely exaggerated. It was not difficult to severely injure or even kill Erica. When the fist was about to hit Erica, Welslana suddenly stopped and looked down. There was a shiny chain wrapped around his waist. Do you think I don't exist? Get over here. With a gentle pull, Dustless pulled Welslana over. The golden sword in his hand that had been waiting for a long time slashed out. Pucci. Welslana's left arm was chopped off by Dustless. His face was in so much pain that it was almost twisted. Even so, his murderous intent was still locked onto Dustless. Why is it different from what I imagined? Looking at Welslana, who was howling on the ground, Dustless frowned. At this moment, a fragrant wind suddenly came from beside him. He turned around and saw that it was Erica. Your face is frighteningly red, Erica. Dustless observed Erica with a head full of confusion. He was still fine just now. Could it be? Dustless's face lit up. He vaguely understood what Erica meant. Just when he was about to ask, he suddenly found it difficult to speak. He licked his lips, but his mouth was blocked by Erica's lips. Then a lot of knowledge about Welslana flooded into his mind. The world in his eyes began to change. It became golden. Countless long swords stopped in the air and all pointed at Welslana. Bastard. Smelling the scent of death that he had never felt before, Welslana struggled. However, the heaven lock was too strong. Even if he used all his strength, it was useless. Whoosh, whoosh. Countless long swords stabbed out. Welslana was like a porcupine. His body was covered with all kinds of weapons. A god of a generation fell just like that. The next time we meet, I will definitely kill you and your little lover. Welslana's body gradually collapsed and disappeared. He stared at Dustless fiercely, wanting to remember this hateful face forever. Idiot, if I can kill you once, I can kill you 10 or even 100 times. Dustless snorted, ignoring Welslana's threat. At the same time, a soul-deep exhaustion rushed into his heart. Dustless fainted without realizing it. Chapter 14:16. In a strange white world. Dustless was lying quietly. After a long time, his nose wrinkled as if he noticed the difference in this world. Although he was puzzled, he still closed his eyes. So soft. The soft touch made Dustless restless. He wanted to open his eyes and look at this strange world, but he enjoyed the comfortable touch and couldn't help but rub it twice. So soft? Of course, after all, it's me. But a crisp and pleasant voice suddenly came, and Dustless opened his eyes. A pink-haired girl with a ponytail came into view. She was glaring at Dustless and said angrily, "But saying that your mother is so soft is disgraceful. What's more, he even had such dirty thoughts. How rude." Mother? Hearing this strange name, Dustless's mouth twitched wildly. He is also a person who is hundreds of years old, and his mother has always been Uchiha Mikoto. Who are you, little brat? Standing up and stretching, Dustless asked in a bad mood, "Give me a reasonable explanation, or I will let you know the horror of offending me." She dares to ask me to call her mother? Dustless got goosebumps just thinking about it. He really can't say such a disgusting name, and he has nothing to do with this girl. The girl is about 10 years old. She has a good appearance and a slender figure. If compared with the beautiful figures of Lucrezia Zola or Erica Brantry, she is the slender type. She has a cute baby face and figure that makes people want to praise. The girl's long blonde hair is parted to the left and right, and she is wearing a thin white dress. But compared to anyone else, she has a more flirtatious woman feeling. Little brat. Hearing this, Pandora suddenly pouted and said in dissatisfaction, "You used my leg as a pillow to sleep, and you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you called me a little brat. This is a serious crime." "Your name is Pandora, right?" Dustless suddenly replied as he stared at the pink-haired girl, a strange glint flashing in his eyes. The origin of the Godslayers was related to her, and the person who managed the Godslayer reincarnation technique was Pandora. "You know me? Who are you?" Pandora was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a monster. Very few people knew of her existence. "My name is Dustless, a man who is about to become a Godslayer." Glancing at Pandora, Dustless continued to lie in the unfamiliar world. He kept feeling that it was somewhat familiar. Perhaps it was just his dream. "Since you know that I'm Pandora, you should also know my ability. Since you know that I'm a woman who can give you everything, be obedient. Be good and call me mommy." With her hands on her hips, Pandora said very seriously. She was in charge of the Godslayer reincarnation technique, and it was also Pandora who created all the Godslayers. No. I won't listen to you. Some things have no choice. Since you dared to appear here, you have to help me become a Godslayer." Dustless smiled mysteriously as he shook his finger gently. As a transmigrator, he knew the inside story that no one else knew. "You seem to know a lot, kid." Pandora frowned slightly. Even the lively and active her was a little downcast. The man in front of her was different from all the Godslayers in the past. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's thoughts, which made Pandora feel a little guilty. Even if the gods help humans, they have their own motives. You are no exception. Glancing lightly at Pandora, Dustless explained, "Although I don't know what you're doing, you should have checked my body just now. In fact, my body doesn't need you to modify it, and at the same time, I don't need the so-called power. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. Pursuing those powers is just to pass the time." Dustless gave an answer that made Pandora want to vomit blood. Her body trembled. "I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime." How arrogant was this sentence? This little brat has a lot of puzzles. Dustless's thoughts raced. He had heard many rumors about Pandora in his previous life, and some of the descriptions were quite accurate. Pandora was created by Zeus, the king of the gods and the gods. The gods gave her perfection, but at the same time, they gave her the mission of bringing disaster to mankind. She carried Pandora's box to punish mankind for the sin of privately using fire, civilization. Pandora was also human, and the gods' actions were equivalent to betraying mankind. The god of disobedience was also one of the disasters, and the bottom of Pandora's box was the last hope. The god slayer should be the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box. Dustless had heard countless versions of the above rumors. He didn't know the specific facts. In short, he was sure that Pandora had a bad relationship with the gods. Otherwise, she wouldn't help mankind kill the gods. Of course, these were not important. This had nothing to do with Dustless. And even if he didn't carry out the reincarnation ceremony of the God Slayer, Dustless didn't care. Anyway, he could use Rinnegan to control Pandora to carry out the reincarnation ceremony. Of course, it was only to obtain the authority of the gods. As for the change of body, forget it. Dustless didn't think that the bodies of the gods were more heaven-defying than his body of Juby. Although you are very strong and the authority of the gods is dispensable to you, at least you should respect me a little. Pandora blinked and said, her tone was full of helplessness and she felt a headache. Dustless was the most heaven-defying and abnormal existence she had ever seen. Ordinary god slayers would be seriously injured after killing the gods. They would be infinitely close to being disabled and close to death. Only Dustless was an exception. Even if he killed 2 gods in succession, he didn't have the slightest injury. He was lively and extremely healthy. Chapter 14-17. Pandora admitted that compared to other godslayers, Dustless, who was a surpasser, was almost perfect in all aspects and had the qualifications to negotiate. Who would have thought that he was even stronger? Moreover, Dustless was not injured at all and did not need to change his body. You're a little strange. After staring at Dustless for a while, Pandora finally gave a strange answer. There was only one outcome for an ordinary human who used the Prometheus secret manual: their entire body would collapse and die. However, Dustless used it without any adverse effects. Although you don't need to change your body, you still need to make some modifications to your body. Taking a look at Dustless, Pandora patiently explained, if you don't do the basic transformation even if you kill a god, it's impossible to obtain their authority. Of course, if you don't care about those authorities, you don't have to. Don't want it? That's the reward for my hard work. How can I not want it? Upon hearing this, Dustless refuted. Then feel free to take off your clothes, Pandora said abruptly. Pandora said extremely abruptly. Immediately, Wuxia seemed to be electrocuted and his whole body stiffened. Take off my clothes? Looking at her suspiciously, Dustless felt like she was looking for a lab rat to do an experiment. He had never heard of a reincarnation warlock taking off their clothes. You're a little special. Special people have to be treated with corresponding special methods. Do you understand? For example, you're different from other god slayers. After they kill a god, almost all of them are in a state of near death. If you let yourself enter a state of near death, I can treat you the same as they do. Pandora shrugged and said. Her tone made one nod involuntarily. You'd better not do anything strange. Giving a warning glance at Pandora, Dustless's threatening intent was full. No matter what world it was or whose world it was, Dustless had the certainty to kill a person, even if the other party was an unfathomable god. Of course I'm your mother. If you mention that word again, don't blame me for being rude. Wuxia said with an ashen face. Inexplicably, a mother appeared out of nowhere. It was a pain in the ass. All right, take off your clothes. Don't waste my precious time. Pandora waved her hand. She knew when to stop joking. Ka. After saying that, a wave of energy surged out of Dustless's body. His clothes instantly disintegrated into pieces and slowly fell to the ground like goose feathers. Very strong, your muscles are well proportioned. Pandora commented faintly. Then she said, all right, please close your eyes. Wuxia nodded slightly and closed her eyes seriously. Pandora's expression was serious and solemn. She didn't seem to be joking with her. Although this eccentric god seemed unreliable, she wouldn't fool around casually. Pandora had forcefully kissed him during this period of time. F***ck. Dustless cursed in his heart. After being in love for so many years, he did not expect to be schemed against by a little girl and even be kissed by her. The ritual is complete. Pandora suddenly said with a serious expression. Hearing that, Dustless was stunned. The hostility in his body also dissipated. He asked in surprise, the ritual is complete? So fast? Moreover, if it's completed so easily, what's the point of me taking off my clothes? Dustless's face darkened. He felt like he had been fooled. Well. Don't mind such a simple thing. Pandora chuckled and said, good boy, I'm your mother. Get to know your body. It's Tao Breaking 96, One Blade Cremation. In the quiet room, Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. There were still flames in his eyes. Damn that Pandora. Don't let me catch her next time. Otherwise, Wuxia gritted his teeth and said. Being chased and called his son, and being asked to call him mother, Wuxia felt a headache and was speechless. No matter the people in each world, there would always be a few weirdos. Someone seems to be grabbing me. With a strange expression, Dustless suddenly found that the quilt was bulging and he was sleeping on it. The environment was familiar. He guessed that he was now in Miss Lucrezia's house. 3 hands? Dustless's expression became even more strange. He suddenly felt that there were 3 hands grabbing him under the quilt. He was stunned when he lifted the quilt. Erica, don't hug my leg when you sleep. And Miss Lucrezia, take your hands away from my important parts. Wuxia raised his voice several decibels and shouted angrily, waking up the 2 people who were sleeping soundly. It was an accident. I couldn't help it. It's an unavoidable factor. Lucrezia retracted her hands embarrassedly. At the same time, she turned her back to Dustless and sniffed her fingers. She looked as if she wanted more, which made Dustless feel stifled. The smell of a god slayer is indeed different, Lucrezia said, intoxicated with herself. To what extent is this old witch's thirst? Wuxia said with a face full of disgust. He had a new understanding of this weird witch's hobby. At the same time, the news that Dustless had become a god slayer was unpredictable to the whole world. After all, the birth of a new king was too much of a concern. It could be said that Dustless's every move had affected some people's nerves. Dustless was speechless. These 2 perverts never cared about the occasion. Chapter 14:18. Dustless felt helpless. He knew that no matter if it was Erica or Lucrezia who liked to play this kind of game, Dustless could only complain. New king, what's your next step? Lucrezia looked at Dustless with a smile, pointed to the books of various mythological systems in his backpack and said, "Don't tell me you're really going to kill all the mythological systems. By the way, only by killing the god of disobedience can you get the corresponding authority." Kill all the gods? Not interested. I'm not that bored. Dustless shook his head. Being a god slayer was a spur of the moment. In fact, the authority of the gods was not much of a temptation to him. The only ones that could interest Dustless were those gods with rare authority. As for the next step, I plan to leave Sardinia and go to Japan, Dustless said faintly after getting dressed. Go to Japan? Erica and Lucrezia looked at each other. The latter did not have much of a reaction, but Erica was different. The birth of a new king would cause a lot of problems. For example, the ownership of the king's country might conflict with the local magic resistance. As you wish. Erica sighed softly. She still hoped that Dustless would stay in Italy and see his unshakable eyes. But after thinking about it, she decided not to. This world was recognized by the king and the king would bear it. Erica did not need to say anything. There seems to be a special guest. Frowning slightly, Dustless looked at the window. There, he felt a gaze, and it was the kind that was not concealed. It was hard not to notice. The mysterious newcomer was a very beautiful girl. About 13 or 14 years old. On the surface, he had a childish and angelic face. His silver hair reached his shoulders and melted into the moonlight. His pupils were as dark as the night. At that time they thought that there was no need to fight and left. Later, she met the guardian for the second time at the seaside in pursuit of the Gorgon stone. She was wearing a thin sweater and miniskirt, black knee-length socks, and a blue braided hat over her silver hair. God of disobedience? Erica and Lucrezia were stunned, especially Erica, who blushed in embarrassment. As a knight, she didn't even notice the enemy's intrusion. She looks like Athena. After staring at the innocent girl for a while, Dustless was surprised. Although Athena had appeared in Sardinia in the original work, she didn't seem to have any intersection with Kusanagi Protector. When it came to this, the atmosphere changed. It's rude to invade someone else's home, Miss God of Disobedience. Gently pouring himself a glass of red wine, Dustless said with a calm expression, "What's the matter?" "They were just attracted by your fight." She stared at Dustless for a while. The God Slayer and the God of Disobedience are natural enemies. Is there a need for a battle of life and death? You're a war-loving god, daring to come to me. You're brave but admirable. Dustless nodded, but he had no intention of fighting. Although I am a warmonger, I am not interested in your authority. Therefore this boring duel. I refuse. A strenuous and thankless duel is very disgusting. Wu Chen waved his hand and said with deep disgust. Forget it if we can't get any benefits from fighting for half a day. Dustless isn't interested in Athena's authority. This guy. Compared to Dustless, who remained calm, Erica was full of indescribable nervousness. There were even obvious sweat stains on both sides of her temples. Is it the Gorgon stone? Dustless frowned. He knew some secrets that no one else knew. That means you'll only fight when you meet the god of disobedience that you're interested in? What an eccentric god slayer. Athena said softly, and then her tone took a turn for the worse. You're looking down on me. Looking down? Dustless frowned. Although it was a bit far-fetched, it was an indisputable fact. It was because he looked down on her that he was not interested. Then what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. He had smelled Athena's hostility. Interesting. Athena's naturally cute little face had a playful look. Her body emitted a faint black light, releasing her godlike aura. Crock, crock, crock. The mirrors in the room, the household appliances, and all the wooden furniture were making a crock, crock sound, and there were clear cracks. Is this a god? So powerful? Erica and Lucrezia were embarrassed. Dustless, with his excellent vision, could even see the two girls' hair standing on end and sweat dripping down like raindrops. As expected of a god, but Dustless nodded slightly. Even he was faintly affected. But his strength was far beyond Erica and Lucrezia's, so even a god's deterrence had little effect on him. It was wishful thinking to use this to force Dustless to surrender. But attacking my friends and knights is still unforgivable. Dustless's face was obviously cold and his eyes were cold. Unforgivable? Are you kidding? God Slayer. The corners of Athena's mouth curled up as she sneered. Although a god slayer can defeat a god, you seem to have forgotten one thing. Even gods have different levels of strength. Athena said proudly. She had to admit that as a god of the Trinity she did have the right to be proud. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. Chapter 14:19. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. However, Dustless did not buy it. In Dustless's eyes, Athena was no different from Mercado and Welslana. They were all gods and there was no difference in strength. Anyway, the end result would be the same. You are very different from the other gods' layers. The deterrence released all blasted onto Dustless, and an invisible force distorted his surroundings. Ka. The floor under Dustless's feet burst open. His whole body seemed to be hundreds of times heavier and the ground collapsed. However, from his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was not affected. This is too boring. After a while, Dustless sighed and said, Now you are not at your peak. I don't feel hungry defeating you. Come and find me when you have recovered your strength. Dustless waved his hand and looked at Athena as if she was a noob. Although I don't know how strong you are, I am sure that your talking skills are profound and powerful. Athena's small face flashed with fierceness. Gods were not easily angered, but once they were, the consequences were extremely serious. You are just a god slayer. Athena raised her hand and a purple-black high-density energy attack came at him. You want to hurt me with your filthy light? You are too naive. Dustless was not afraid at all, and then suddenly changed the topic and said, However, it is not a bad choice to use you to familiarize myself with Welslana's ability. As for Mercado's power, Dustless had already chosen to ignore it. You little brat, you want to use me as a whetstone? Athena's mouth twitched, and she suddenly felt that this human in front of her was not an ordinary one. I am merciful enough to play with you. You should thank me. Dustless smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a glittering golden sword appeared in an instant. Then he glanced at the purple-black fog that flew at him, and the golden sword swept out. Poochie. As if he was cutting vegetables, he crushed and destroyed them as casually as taking a stroll. That sword seems to be... Athena's pupils shrank and her eyes became dim and empty. She seemed to have sunk into her memories. She seemed to be familiar with Dustless's golden sword. This is the golden sword, one of Welslana's powers. Dustless looked at Athena, who had some impression of the golden sword, and told her everything with a smile. You have to be careful. Other than this clone I have 9 more. You idiot, you'd better know when to stop. Before his voice had died away, Erica had pounced on Dustless with a dark face and covered his mouth with both hands. She scolded loudly, Are you an idiot? How dare you tell others about your authority? Your opponent is a god and you can only win if you keep your trump cards. Erica wanted to cry. This guy was hopeless. Whoa. Dustless opened his mouth and roared, but his mouth was covered by Erica. After a long time, Erica still didn't understand what Dustless was trying to say. However, from his indifferent eyes, Erica could tell that he didn't care. Have you guys had enough? A cold voice sounded. Looking at the source of the voice, it was Athena who was ignored. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly expression. Athena was quite uncomfortable with her tone, as if she had eaten a fly. She couldn't even breathe properly. When a god was unhappy, someone would naturally be unlucky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several magic light balls swept over. The power and quantity of the magic light balls were greater than before. Oh no. Erica panicked. At this moment she was still on top of Dustless. There was no time to stand up and dodge. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. She was still flirting with Dustless when facing a powerful enemy. In a trance, Erica even saw the shadow of death. Hum. When Erica was in despair, the void around her suddenly rippled like water temperature, and a weak small hole with waves of gravity appeared. God's power. As soon as Dustless finished speaking, the small vortex became several times bigger and turned into a small black hole. The gravity directly absorbed Athena's power. Then the space closed and everything returned to normal. What is this? Both Erica and Lucrezia were stunned, including Athena. She looked at Dustless speechlessly and hesitantly. Are you sure this is the power of Welslana? This place is a bit small. It's not good to burn Miss Lucrezia's house. Dustless stood up and dusted off his clothes, looking at the always expressionless Athena. Only the strong have the right to talk, Athena said calmly. Athena said calmly, still maintaining absolute confidence. Although the God Slayer could kill gods, they were not invincible. You've misunderstood. If we fight here, Miss Lucrezia's house will inevitably be damaged. So, in order to avoid causing her losses, I can only kill you instantly. Dustless said coldly with a cold light in his eyes. You bastard. Athena was furious at Dustless's words. If he could kill her instantly, why would he change the venue? What did this mean? Dustless wanted to play with her. Athena reacted violently to his blatant contempt and disdain. A black scythe appeared in her hand, flickering with a sharp and dazzling light. If you can defeat me, then go ahead and try. With that, Athena charged over without caring about the consequences. She was a warmonger, and the blood of battle flowed in her body. It was her nature to challenge the strong. Chapter 14:20. Erica was so nervous that her fists were sweating. She knew the exact location of what Athena wanted, and she couldn't hide it even if she wanted to. Human tricks were nothing to Athena. To put it bluntly, they were just asking to be humiliated. If I say we have to change, then we have to change. You don't have a choice. Dustless didn't give Athena a chance to react. His body flashed fiercely, and the dazzling golden light made everyone close their eyes. Athena was no exception. She hated the light that could chase away the night more than anyone else. Who caught me? Sensing that her arm was being attacked, Athena panicked. There was only a blurry glowing figure in front of her. Due to the speed, she didn't know who it was. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Then she was forcefully pulled away at an unprecedented speed. In less than a second, she crossed thousands of meters and arrived at a desolate land. The light also took the initiative to pull away from Athena. Looking around at the unfamiliar environment, Athena was a little dazed. It was just a blink of an eye? She felt as if she had run thousands of miles away. Your authority is so enviable. Looking at Dustless, Athena knew that the person who forcefully dragged her away was this frivolous guy in front of her. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Dustless. Thank you for sparring with me. Dustless thanked her seriously. It wasn't a bad idea to find someone who was familiar with Welislana's authority. Even with Athena's otherworldly character, she was infuriated by Dustless at this moment. How dare he find a powerful god to be his sparring partner? Outrageous. Athena felt like she was being belittled. Don't look so angry. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Dustless gave her a reassuring look. Unexpectedly, Athena only snorted. Then let me see if you have the ability. With that, Athena floated in the sky, holding the shining ghost scythe tightly in her hand. She turned into a blur and pounced forward. The cold light was about to cut through Silver's head. Frowning slightly, Dustless's eyes flashed with displeasure. Too weak. Even if you are a cameo, you have to be professional. Please be more serious. Clang clang clang. Dustless grabbed the scythe with his bare hands and whispered, Act more seriously. Maybe I'll give you the Gorgon stone for free when I'm in a good mood. Arrogant. Hearing this, Athena's expression turned cold, and the strength in her hands involuntarily increased by several times, forcing Dustless to retreat repeatedly. Wu Chen's eyes shone with awe-inspiring light, and he immediately activated the authority of Mighty Bull. A powerful force flowed through his body, and Wu Chen suddenly felt that his bull strength had increased by dozens of times. Go back. Athena's expression was ugly. She did not expect Dustless's strength to be so great that she could force him to retreat. What was worse was that when her strength increased, Dustless's strength would also increase. Cough cough cough. Dustless suddenly coughed twice. He pointed his left arm to the sky and said, For victory come to me. Undying sun, please bestow upon me the shining steed, the spirited steed, bring forth your master's wheel of light. Woo woo woo, the sky suddenly lit up. Looking up, under Athena's shocked gaze, a flaming horse's whinny resounded through the sky. It's those hateful horses? Athena said solemnly. Obviously, she had a good impression of this authority. Sensing the danger, she took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless. It's average, but it's not bad, Dustless said with a smile. To some extent, Ardent Sun and Athena were natural enemies that could not be reconciled. I can only take it head-on. A green-faced fanged shield appeared in Athena's hand. She raised it above her head. It seemed like she was going to use it to defend herself. Boom boom boom. The flaming horse charged at the stone shield with full force. The ground under Athena's feet cracked. The powerful force pressed Athena into the ground. Well, I said, if you want to take advantage of the situation? Athena interrupted Dustless. Her big eyes looked coldly at Dustless. His body began to change, losing a lot of water. You don't know how to be kind at all. Also, what's wrong with my body? Dustless pursed his lips. He had planned to go easy on Athena. After all, he did not have a deep grudge against her. However, Dustless found that his body was turning into stone. Oh right, this guy's eyes seem to be able to turn everything he sees into stone. Even people? Dustless was more or less interested. It was a good ability to turn an enemy into stone with just a glance. If he was caught off guard, he would be petrified before he could react. Get out of my way. With a roar, Athena's body exploded with a powerful force. It actually offset the destructive waves from the white horse. Athena even felt that it was unbelievable after it was over. Could it be that this guy went easy on me? Athena looked at the petrified Dustless suspiciously. At the same time, Dustless's body was gradually petrified. His lower body almost turned into stone. It was about to corrode his upper body and occupy it. Athena was both the war god and the goddess of wisdom. She could see through the opponent's personality and divine power. As the god of darkness, she had the highest level of power. She could control snakes and summon owls. She also had the power of the evil eye that could turn everything into stone. As the master of the underworld, she could use the death god's curse or expand the domain of darkness to block vision and create a shield. Let's stop here. Athena smiled. Just as she was about to leave, Dustless's sudden action stunned her. Chapter 1421. In the long river of time, there were countless people who had left a deep impression on Athena, but the most unforgettable one was still the handsome young man in front of her. It was as if he was branded in the depths of her soul. Ka. Dustless shattered his petrified lower body and looked at Athena expressionlessly, not caring at all. Are you crazy? Your body will be completely destroyed if you do that. Athena said in shock. She secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Such a rash action was equivalent to self-mutilation. Crazy? What you think is inconceivable is just a small matter to me. Hearing this, Dustless snorted disdainfully and retorted, the shocking thing in your eyes is just a trivial matter in my eyes. Then, Dustless's body underwent an inconceivable change. Large amounts of white liquid flowed out of his body, replenishing the damaged parts. Athena could already guess what was going to happen next. This is impossible. Where did he come from? Why does he have so many abilities that even the gods are jealous of? Athena was confused. What happened to Wu Chen's body proved her conjecture. His broken body was restored to its original state. I am the same as you. I have an immortal body. No matter what kind of attack I receive, I will recover. Dustless didn't say much. He just explained indifferently as if he was narrating a trivial matter that wasn't worth mentioning. What is your name? Athena finally started to pay attention to Dustless. Dustless. Athena frowned and said without thinking, I don't think there is such a name, don't think about it. I'm not a god. Dustless said disapprovingly. So what if he was a god? The number of gods that died in his hands could be used as a refugee camp. Your ability is also very strange. It doesn't seem to belong to authority. Athena guessed. She was a god of the Trinity. When she was the goddess of wisdom, she had the ability to see the other party's personality and divine power. With bright eyes, Athena stared at Dustless. Just as she was about to launch her ability to find out what was going on, the cold tone stopped her from doing so. There are some things that shouldn't be exposed. I advise you not to delve into it. Taking a deep look at Athena, Dustless said meaningfully. Are you afraid that I will know your secret and see through your weakness? Athena's eyes were full of contempt. If that is the case, God Slayer, you are going to be in trouble. Little girls nowadays know gods nowadays are really naive. Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, why is Pandora's box so popular? That's because every living creature has a curious heart. They want to know what's hidden in Pandora. Perhaps it's some kind of treasure, perhaps it's... But when they open it, they discover that what's hidden in Pandora isn't a shiny jewel, nor is it an elixir of immortality. Instead, it's an endless calamity and despair. It's the source of evil? Do you understand what I mean? Athena frowned. As the goddess of wisdom, her intelligence was naturally not for show. Are you saying that you are Pandora's box? Who knows? Shrugging his shoulders, Wu Chen gave an ambiguous answer. All in all, sometimes knowing too many secrets will make you feel that life is very torturous. Isn't it good to live in ignorance and happiness? That is you. Athena glared fiercely at Dustless. Although she refuted Dustless's ridiculous theory, she chose to obey in her heart. Understanding everything about Dustless's past might be a terrible thing. Go to hell. A large cloud of black fog emerged from her hand, and the surrounding sky was covered. Dustless was also in the black fog and his body was corroded. The damaged body was endlessly repaired. Just like Athena, immortal and indestructible, any wound could be healed. You're too weak right now. Come and challenge me when you've recovered to your peak. Dustless glanced at Athena. He wasn't interested in her authority. Dustless was no exception to Athena's abilities. Wanna leave? Athena was about to launch a large-scale attack, but she fainted without warning. Sleep for a while. Rinnegan emitted a faint ripple, and majestic spiritual power invaded Athena's mind. She, who was full of fighting spirit, instantly closed her eyes and fell asleep. Plop. Athena fell on the soft grass and Dustless was nowhere to be seen. Next I will go to Japan. Dustless whispered to himself. He originally wanted to see Luo Hao, but after thinking about it he gave up. After the violent Bishop Luo knew that he had become a god slayer, he would fight with him for 300 rounds. Anyway, there was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. At Lucrezia's home. Is Athena done? Erica and Lucrezia asked in unison. They were full of confidence in Dustless. Since he could come back safe and sound, it meant that Athena had failed. Done. She is probably sleeping soundly now. Hearing this, Erica angrily picked up a glass of water and threw it at Dustless. Fortunately, his elemental body was able to dodge it, or his handsome face would be disfigured. Why don't you kill her? Her power is no less than Wellislana's. Erica's pretty face darkened, and she even wanted to pull Dustless over to kill him. She suspected, "Are you bewitched by her beauty?" "I just don't like her." Dustless responded faintly and sat on the sofa with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 1422. Countless crows flew past Erica's head at Dustless's straightforward answer. She was speechless and conflicted. That was the power of a god and it was better than nothing. But Erica knew that she could not persuade Dustless, so she could only let him be. One was a knight and the other was a king. She could only obey Dustless's orders. She had no right to disobey. Pack your luggage, Erica. We're going to Japan tomorrow. As you command, my king. Erica knelt on one knee and made a gesture of obedience. Really? Seeing this, Dustless shook his head. When Erica was serious, she was so serious that he did not even give her face. But when she was lazy, she was like a different person. Don't you need to stay for a few more days? I'm still a little. No need. Erica glared at Lucrezia and scolded in her mind. Really, she's so flirtatious at her age. The world is so cold. At the same time, in another direction. In a dark and oppressive palace, an old man sat on the throne with a solemn expression. His expression was solemn and dignified, and he exuded a powerful aura. His eyes were green, and he looked like a hungry wolf that was about to devour its prey. Marquis Warban. On the carpet below, a silver-haired girl knelt on one knee. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. She did not even dare to look at the man on the throne. Her body was trembling as if she had encountered some super terrifying creature. Beads of cold sweat were dripping down her face. A new god slayer has appeared? Liliana Kranikar? The old man who was called Marquis Warban asked faintly. His tone was demonic and naturally oppressive. Liliana immediately tensed up and replied, "Yes, Marquis. The new god slayer is very powerful. He killed 2 gods easily." 2 gods. Curiosity flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. He asked with interest, "What's his name?" Hearing this, Liliana's expression froze. She apologized, "I haven't found anything yet." Enough? Marquis Warban bellowed, not giving Liliana a chance to defend herself. He said coldly, "There will only be one exception and one disappointment. If we don't know his name and origin next time." At the same time, Liliana displayed the knowledge of a large number of white skeletons. She waved the steel saber in her hand. Her meaning was self-evident. "Understood, Lord Marquis. That guy is rushing to Japan. I'll go and investigate." Liliana, who was trembling in fear, quickly agreed. This was what it meant to be in the king's company. He could turn hostile in an instant. Furthermore, he could treat a loyal subordinate of many years as trash and kill her at any time. This was a king. 5 days later, at Japan International Airport, Erica and Dustless walked out side by side. Compared to Erica, who had many bags, Dustless was empty-handed. He didn't even have a backpack. The plastic bag in his hand was full of snacks. B** starred, letting a lady carry your luggage and not giving me anything to eat. You really deserve to die." Erica roared crazily, attracting the attention of a group of people who pointed at her and whispered. Dustless decisively put some distance between them. "Does this guy have any gentlemanly demeanor?" Erica was speechless. Realizing that she had lost her composure, she quickly calmed down. "Where are we going?" Erica approached Dustless. Resisting the urge to beat him up, she grabbed a handful of popcorn from Dustless and stuffed it into her mouth. "Where are we going?" Dustless listened. This question was really difficult for him. He shrugged and said, "Actually, I don't know where to go either." The popcorn that she had just swallowed was spurted out in an instant. Erica's face and ears turned red as if her throat was blocked. She quickly grabbed the water bottle in Wu Chen's hand and gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, suppressing her murderous rage. "Then what are you going to do? Sleep on the street?" Erica only felt that the future was dark. This king's strength was not bad. As for other aspects, where to go is indeed a problem. Dustless nodded slightly, lowered his head and thought for 2 seconds, then said, "Let's go to Kusanagi Protector's place. I gave him a lot of money. He will definitely treat me well." Then, Dustless took Erica and ran to Kusanagi Protector's house. Dustless was still somewhat familiar with the route to his house. Kusanagi Protector? Erica showed a blank expression. There was no such person in her memory. He has changed from the first protagonist to the first passerby. Of course you know him. Dustless chuckled. Kusanagi Protector had been dismissed by him with 10 billion yen. Erica and Dustless were not ordinary humans. After a while they came to the door of Kusanagi Protector's house, but it was different from Dustless's memory. Did we come to the wrong place? Did someone die in his house? Erica was suspicious. There were wreaths in front of Kusanagi Protector's house. Obviously someone had just died. This? Dustless stammered for a long time without saying anything. He didn't know either. Don't worry about it. Let's go in and have a look. Erica nodded and followed Dustless into the room. Who are you? A clear voice came. Looking around, Kusanagi Protector's sister slowly walked in. Her eyes were red and she was extremely sad. Dustless, however, stared at the portrait in the room in shock. F***ck, is it because my eyesight is seriously overdrawn? The one hanging on the portrait is Kusanagi Protector? Wu Chen said in astonishment in his heart, blowing up a violent storm. Chapter 1423. Dustless was stunned. His eyes were fixed on the portrait of Kusanagi Protector in disbelief, as if they were about to fall out. If it weren't for Kusanagi Shizuka's red eyes, which indicated that she had cried so much that her eyes were red, he would have thought that it was a scam. That. I am your brother's friend. He was my best friend when he was alive. Dustless said with a serious expression, and then with a righteous expression he said, Who killed Protector? I must avenge him. Whoa. Hearing this, Kusanagi Shizuka burst into tears again and threw herself directly into Dustless's arms. After all, she was a helpless young girl. Hey, Erica was speechless. Looking at Kusanagi Shizuka helplessly, she remembered that her brother had just passed away, so she couldn't continue to attack her. She could only complain in her heart, even if your brother is dead, you can't take advantage of him. Does this guy really know Kusanagi Protector? Looking at Dustless, who was full of indignation, Erica felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Dustless gave her a feeling that he was a smiling tiger. Go in peace. I will take care of your sister in the future. Dustless stared at the portrait for a long time and decided to take care of Kusanagi Shizuka. He couldn't help but ask, how did Protector die? I didn't hear anything before. On the journey to Italy, Kusanagi Protector still carried the Prometheus secret book. Maybe he was targeted by some mysterious people on the return journey. After all, the Prometheus secret book was too precious. When my brother returned to Japan, he was hijacked by terrorists and then, boo-hoo. Kusanagi Shizuka cried even more sadly. Damn. It turned out to be terrorists. Are you kidding me? Although it was said that a certain country set fire and killed people every day in the Middle East, causing terrorists to sweep across the Eurasian continent, it was really tragic that Kusanagi Protector was hijacked. Shizuka, I'm sorry for your loss. The dead can't come back to life. You have to look forward. This is the legacy left by your brother. He participated in a reality show when he was alive and won 10 billion yen as a reward. Dustless handed a bank card to Shizuka Kusanagi and thought to himself, just take it as the room fee. 10 billion? There are so many of them. The grass pheasant essence exclaimed in shock. Don't worry, Hadong is my best friend. I will take care of you from now on. Dustless said with a warm smile on his face. This guy, Erica was speechless. She really couldn't bear to see Dustless continue acting. This guy obviously turned to someone else because he was at his wit's end, but now he was pretending to be so righteous. Shameless. Just as she was about to expose him, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her buttocks, followed by a particularly loud smack. Watch your mouth. After slapping Erica's butt, Dustless said in a voice that only the two of them could hear. You are quite shameless. Erica was lost for words, realizing that it was a mistake to stay in the same room with Dustless. She would be corrupted sooner or later. Humph. With a grunt, Dustless turned his head and comforted Shizuka Kusanagi, who was crying in his arms. I will live here from now on. Dustless secretly decided. Perhaps because she was too tired and sad, after crying for a while, Shizuka Kusanagi fell asleep. He carefully put her on the bed. After covering her with the quilt, Wuchin found a pair of eyes with bad intentions. I am not a thief, don't stare at me like that, Dustless said with a headache. He found that Erica had been observing his every move since just now. Even when he went to the bathroom, she stood guard at the door. It seemed that she was afraid that Dustless would take advantage of the situation and do something bad to Kusanagi Hadong. Your character is very questionable. You should have only met Kusanagi Hadong once, Erica said righteously. You even know this kind of news. You are indeed a well-known genius. Dustless smiled non-committally. The relationship between the two sides was more than just one meeting. Their relationship was even bad. After all, Dustless robbed Kusanagi Hutang's Prometheus secret book and forcibly modified Kusanagi Hutang's memory, leaving him with the impression that he was a robber. So, in order to atone for my crime, I have to personally support Kusanagi Hutang's sister. You should thank me. In the underworld, Kusanagi Hadong can also close his eyes with a smile. The people who killed him are those stupid terrorists. It has nothing to do with me. On the other hand, I adopted his sister and gave her 10 billion yen. What am I if not a living bodhisattva? Dustless said with a serious expression, as if Kusanagi Hadong had to come out and thank him. Sure enough, after being successful, it also means countless troubles. Frowning slightly, Dustless suddenly noticed a few eyes in the dark. Although the concealment was extremely perfect, it was still difficult to escape Dustless's fiery eyes. In a trance, Dustless seemed to see a silver-haired girl with a beautiful figure. Do we need to drive them away? Erica had a headache. In fact, when she first came to Japan with Dustless, she had expected this situation. The only thing she didn't expect was that it would come so quickly. They had just gotten off the plane and the next second, some magic associations would come to their door. Let them be. Dustless waved his hand decisively. These kinds of people left in batches and came in batches. There was no need to bother with them. So, there will be one more in the future. The slightly melancholy tone came to an abrupt end. Observing Kusanagi Shizuka sleeping soundly in the room through the tiny crack of the door, Dustless could only sigh that the world was unpredictable. Kusanagi Hadong was killed by the terrorists for no reason, and he had to take care of his sister. Chapter 1424. Erica's eyes narrowed into crescent moons, smiling like a beautiful woman. Her eyes rolled with evil intentions, unceremoniously exposing Dustless's lie. I'm afraid that's exactly what you want. Kusanagi Protector's sister is a beauty. Erica snorted softly and said, Beauty? Indeed. But I've seen too many beauties, so I'm immune to them. Dustless's expression was calm and there was no lie. He had seen more than thousands of beauties. Just the number of female confidants in the system was innumerable. There were all kinds of heavenly beauties that one could wish for. There was nothing he couldn't think of that he couldn't see. By the way, although I'm living in Kusanagi Protector's house now, I still have to find a job. I can't let go of my pride to be supported by a beautiful girl. Dustless said, scratching his head. He had already thought of a suitable job for himself. He pondered and said, I'm going to study as a PE teacher in Jinghua's school. This new profession should be suitable for me. Teacher? Erica secretly clicked her tongue, stared at Dustless and muttered, To be honest, I feel that you are more like a student. You look about the same age as me. But my actual age is hundreds of years old. Dustless curled his lips and said firmly, No matter what, I've decided not to be a student. Hearing this, Erica was speechless. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of indelible demonic impression Dustless's former teacher left on him. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. Are you too sure? Kusanagi Shizuka's gaze fell on Dustless and Erika. She was confused about their decision. Dustless wanted to be a PE teacher, but Erika wanted to transfer schools. She felt that there was something premeditated. Of course I'm sure. An excellent PE teacher like me is definitely what your school wants. Shrugging, Dustless said narcissistically. His explosive athletic ability was indeed suitable to be a PE teacher. I'm a one-in-a-million genius. If I transfer schools, the head teacher will be moved to tears. Erika stroked her long blonde hair and said proudly, "It shouldn't be a problem." Shizuka Kusanagi nodded. She had no doubts about their abilities. Dustless and Erika didn't look like the kind of people who would play to the gallery. An hour later, Jinghua was in the principal's office of the Qingjia school. Is that simple? Then I should also be able to successfully apply for the job. Wu Qin frowned as he watched Erika leave. It was extremely simple for Erika to transfer schools. She only needed to go through a few procedures and everything was settled. As for you, the bald principal looked at Dustless, his eyes shining with wisdom, and said, "Sir, your arms and legs are thin. You don't seem to be suitable for the position of a PE teacher." I've been despised. Dustless's mouth twitched and his expression turned gloomy. Just as he was about to beat him up and control him with an illusion, the bald principal's voice sounded again. And our school doesn't lack physical education teachers for the time being, so, by the way, you mentioned before that you have some medical skills, right? If it's possible, I hope you can be a healthcare teacher. Seems to be the same. The flames all over Dustless's body disappeared, and he didn't feel any difference. He then promised, "No problem, any disease is a piece of cake for me." Phew, the bald principal breathed a sigh of relief, smiled, and said, "Then you can take up the post now. The healthcare room is on the 4th floor, the last room on the left." "Goodbye, thank you very much, principal." Dustless nodded, bowed slightly, and left. He walked to the location indicated by the bald principal. As soon as he stepped into the 4th floor, he heard a commotion. Damn it, where's the healthcare teacher? Running away in broad daylight? We must report that guy. Senior Wanligu fainted inexplicably just now, and her will is still unconscious. Put her in the healthcare room first, you guys go to find the teacher. All the noise entered Dustless's ears. After listening for a few seconds, he realized that someone suddenly fainted during the PE class. It seemed to be a girl named Wanligu Yoli. Wanligu Yoli? Could it be that witch? Thinking of a witch with the same name, Dustless suddenly quickened his pace and rushed to the healthcare room. He ran as fast as a gust of wind, and it was a waste of talent not to be a PE teacher. When he stepped into the healthcare room, he was surrounded by dozens of girls. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed twice and said with a serious expression, "Hello everyone. I'm the new healthcare teacher, you can call me Dustless. Please give me advice in the future." He's the new healthcare teacher? Should be. If he's an imposter, he would have been eliminated by the school's security personnel. So handsome. The group of girls kept chattering and took the initiative to make way for Dustless. Really, love-struck idiots can be seen everywhere. With a sigh, Dustless walked to the side of the bed. The girl in front of him was beautiful and refined. Even though she had fainted, she still had a faint, quiet temperament. Especially when he got close to Wanligu Yoli, he could faintly smell the orchid fragrance of an empty valley. Combined with her delicate face, it really made people sigh with admiration. I've heard that she has poor physical strength and is not good at sports, but she shouldn't have fainted. Chapter 1425. Dustless frowned and looked at the pale girl. He seemed to have thought of something, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He turned around and ordered them to leave. The health room is a very serious place. Now all of you get out. Dustless's serious face was quite deterrent, and he also released a trace of his own temperament. These girls who were heckling were like ants on a hot pan, and they fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. It's better to be serious. Dustless shook his head and sighed. Then he stared at Wanligu Yoli for a long time. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, and he said in his heart, "I'm afraid that this little girl deliberately pretended to be unconscious. Her purpose is to get close to me, the new king. She is really well informed. I just became your health room and you fainted." Cough, cough. After clearing his throat, Dustless's eyes flashed with a teasing look. He deliberately pretended to have a questioning expression and said to himself, "The body's pulse and complexion seem to be fine. Although the weather is a bit hot, it doesn't seem to have the characteristics of heat stroke." His body is weak, but it shouldn't be to the extent of fainting. Dustless's eyes fell on Wanli Guyoli's body. Seeing that her eyes were still closed, he had to take an inch and ask for a mile. Could it be that there is a problem with other parts of the body, or... And Flo is here. I'll check it out now. Ah. Just a second before his voice fell, Wanli Guyoli instantly sat up, and it was accompanied by a deafening ear-piercing scream that made people tremble. Perverted teacher, stay away from me. Realizing that Dustless had approached the bed, Wanli Guyoli panicked and quickly picked up the pillow and threw it at him. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. I'm helping you to treat Wanli Guyoli, Dustless said with a smile. He thought in his heart, you are still 100,000 miles away from fighting with me. Treat? Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli's face instantly turned red. She couldn't help but curse Dustless's ancestors in her heart. She had the urge to vomit blood. She immediately labeled Wu Chen as a wretched pervert. She thought to herself, I only fainted. What does this have to do with whether my period came or not? Moreover, you want to personally check how perverted he is. Student Wanli Gu, your face is abnormally red. Is your blood flowing faster? His heart was beating rapidly? This is a big problem that needs to be treated. Hurry up and take off your... I'm fine. Wanli Guyoli quickly jumped out of the bed, and his expression quickly returned to normal. In order to dispel Dustless's doubts, he ran 2 laps in an extremely vigorous manner. It seems that he has really recovered. Tisk tisk, my medical skills are really brilliant. Dustless shamelessly boasted and sold himself, but he was laughing in his heart. Brilliant? Wanli Guyoli's mouth twitched. If Dustless was really a brilliant doctor, perhaps the patients in this world would have died. Since you have recovered, hurry up and go to class. I still need to receive other students here. Pointing in the direction of the door, Dustless poured himself a cup of water and gently took a sip. In fact, Dustless was testing her in disguise. If Wanli Guyoli was really under some kind of order to contact him, she would never leave at will. But Sure enough, Wanli Guyoli suddenly shrunk and her expression was very awkward. Sure enough, she was entrusted by someone else. It is estimated that it is some special organization of the country's government. Dustless frowned. In fact, every country has a similar organization, which is responsible for investigating supernatural events. Most of the members are magicians or magicians like Wanli Guyoli. However, it is stupid to come up with such a rotten idea like pretending to be sick. Dustless looked at the girl who was tightly pinching the corner of her clothes. Her face was red and quite cute like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. After shrunk for a long time, Wanli Guyoli finally gritted her teeth and said, that teacher still doesn't have a girlfriend? I hope to be able to associate with teacher. When she said the word girlfriend, Wanli Guyoli almost bit out each word. TSK, for the sake of that broken organization behind you, you really sacrificed a lot. Dustless sighed in his heart. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a burst of helplessness. It was just the first time they met, and Wanli Guyoli didn't even know his name. This speed of association was more exaggerated than love at first sight. Student Wanli Guyoli is still underage. This kind of thing can be discussed later. Dustless tactfully refused. If he directly refused her without thinking, it would inevitably hurt the pure girl's heart. After all, she was innocent. Although Dustless's idea was good, he still underestimated the girl in front of him. My figure is very plump, and age is not a problem. Wanli Guyoli plucked up her courage, resisted her shyness, patted her cleavage and said loudly. Dustless staggered and almost fell when he heard the words. He said painfully, Student Wanli Guyoli, to tell you the truth, I already have a girlfriend. She is a new student named Erica. Dustless, who was helpless, could only use Erica to temporarily avoid the sharp edge. This problem girl was really confusing. But Dustless suddenly changed the thread of discussion and said softly, if you don't mind, I can go to your house to do it. Really? Wanli Guyoli's desperate eyes surged with hot light. She looked at Dustless with a face full of hope, for fear that he would go back on his words. Her delicate little face was full of tension. See you after school. Dustless nodded seriously and smiled. Chapter 1426. Dustless agreed to Wanli Guyoli's request after careful consideration. If he rejected her first, it would mean that she would come to him again. In that case, he might as well settle it once and for all. See you after school. Wanli Guyoli bowed with a smile and immediately left with light steps. Just as she was about to step out of the infirmary, her body stopped as if she had been electrocuted. May I know your name? Wanli Guyoli was very embarrassed. Thinking of her presumptuous behavior just now, her face reddened uncontrollably again. Who would be willing to have a girlfriend with a person they didn't even know? Dustless. Dustless responded softly. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at the golden scenery outside the window with boredom. Goodbye, Mr. Dustless. Wanli Guyoli's face bloomed with a charming smile before she hurriedly left. What a shy girl. Are you planning to eavesdrop on others' conversation? And you're terrible at hiding, Erica. Hearing the rapid breathing outside the infirmary, Dustless sneered in a strange tone. I thought someone brought their cow to see a doctor. So it's Elika-chan. Tap tap tap. Erica walked in righteously. Although she was eavesdropping on the conversation between Dustless and Wanli Guyoli, she said righteously, protecting the king's safety is the rule of a knight. This is not eavesdropping but a duty. Please pay attention to your words. You're quite good at talking. Dustless sat down on the bed, holding his head and saying, Really, ever since I became that whatever king, troublesome things have come one after another. If they're not trying to rope me in, they're trying to scheme against me. I can't be careless at all. Once a person had the power to destroy the world, he would inevitably become the target of all forces and organizations. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. Are you really going to see her? Erica asked with a frown. She was very unwilling. Dustless was only so big. If everyone wanted to take a bite out of him, how could she take a bite out of him? Of course. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. After all, this is their territory. Dustless said casually. Anyway, he had nothing to do. You're afraid that you'll be punished for troubling that little girl, aren't you? Erica snorted as if she knew what he was thinking. After school, Dustless attracted a lot of attention as soon as he arrived at the school gate. What does that have to do with you? Dustless looked at Erica and asked. At this moment, his right arm was tightly gripped by her, sandwiched between her cleavage. It's a knight's responsibility to protect the king. Erica's expression was solemn, her tone sounding like that of a professional bodyguard. What about you? She turned her head and glanced at Shizuka Kusanagi, who was holding Dustless's left arm and glaring at Erica. You're Onii-san's friend. I can't bear to see you being led astray by others. Shizuka Kusanagi said with an expression of, I'm thinking for you. No wonder I attracted so much firepower, Wuchin smiled bitterly. He realized that he was being glared at by countless boys. Their ferocious looks looked like they wanted to swallow him alive. Everyone loved beauty. Wuchin took care of so many girls. How could the others live? Dustless sensei you. A clear voice came from the side. Dustless turned his head and saw Wanli Guyoli, who had been waiting for him for a long time. You two go back first. Dustless stared at Shizuka Kusanagi and Erica, and said in a serious tone, I won't get lost and I don't need a bodyguard. Shizuka Kusanagi and Erica looked at each other, and hearing Dustless's stern tone, they finally nodded. Remember to come back early tonight, I have something to tell you. Erica said with a rare serious expression. Something big? Hearing this, Dustless froze for a moment, and could not help but think of the Gorgon stone. Don't worry, you should know my strength. If you can't even protect yourself, you're just going to die. Erica and Kusanagi seemed to be very dissatisfied. Wanli Guyoli was worried. She did not want to break up Dustless's relationship because of her, so she suggested, how about, together? Don't worry about them. Patting Wanli Guyoli's shoulder gently, Dustless comforted her. They are not the kind of people who are unreasonable, that would be best. Wanli Guyoli echoed and at the same time, pulled Dustless to lead the way. Despite some awkward misunderstandings, the two talked and laughed along the way and got along quite well. This scene is really unexpected. In the black car, the young man with glasses looked at Dustless and Wanli Guyoli's departing back with a wise look in his eyes. This king seems to be easier to deal with than his king, and he has a good temper. He seems to be easier to get along with than the other kings. The figure in the black car is called Gorgon Winterhorse, and he is the official representative of the redaction committee. In fact, he also asked Wanli Guyoli to win over Dustless. He thought that this simple girl would not be able to complete the task, but who would have thought that she would complete the task well and not find out the situation? Miss Wanli Gu doesn't seem to hate him very much. Driving quietly close to Dustless and Wanli Guyoli, Gorgon Winterhorse found that Wanli Guyoli would sometimes show a sincere smile, and the quick-witted Gorgon Winterhorse immediately came up with a good plan. If Miss Wanli Gu can be his girlfriend or even if she can marry him. Thinking of this, Gorgon Winterhorse was very excited. If they had a king to protect them, their future would definitely be promising. Chapter 1427. Thinking of this, Kanaji Winterhorse was particularly excited. It was as if he had already seen Dustless's appearance in the future. Whiz whiz whiz. With a super drift, Kanaji Winterhorse disappeared from sight. Although Kanaji Winterhorse had some sympathy for Wanli Guyoli, at least he didn't catch the disgust from her expression. Even if she didn't like Dustless, she wouldn't hate him. This made Kanaji Winterhorse feel less guilty. Really, just be a good human being. You have to scream about things that have nothing to do with you. It's really boring. Wu Qin sighed softly. The sudden appearance of Winterhorse of Sweet Meal, and even the words he muttered to himself, all fell into his ears without missing a word. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, about 10 minutes had passed. Dustless and Wanli Guyoli also came to a special courtyard. The surroundings were full of flowers and plants. The scenery was pleasant, especially the elegant shrine had a retro taste. Is this your home? The scenery is very good. It's really a pleasure to live here. Dustless nodded secretly and looked at the figure running quickly from the left. The only uninvited guest was probably him. Sorry, my name is Kanaji Winterhorse. I'm the official representative of our country's compilation committee. The uncle with glasses bowed gently and was polite. I hope that Miss Wanli Gu would invite you. If I offended you, please forgive me. Kanaji Winterhorse continued to explain, reluctantly being responsible. I've already seen this. Dustless replied indifferently, I just went to Qingjia to be a teacher and you fainted. This is too much of a coincidence. Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli's small face was slightly red, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. Since teacher Dustless knows this is a conspiracy, but she still rushed over without hesitation, indicating that she deliberately helped me out. Wanli Guyoli was very well behaved and poured 2 cups of tea. Her gentle appearance was like a pretty daughter of a humble family, giving people the impression that she was very intellectual. If you have something to say, I just hope that you won't do those boring surveillance in the future, otherwise. Releasing a wisp of his own killing intent, the surrounding air instantly condensed, and the biting cold in the hot weather was particularly terrifying. Of course. Winterhorse Ganji wiped his cold sweat and nodded. In his heart, he sighed that the king was indeed temperamental. 1 second he could be friends with you and the next second he could put a knife to your neck. I hope you can join. If you want me to join your organization, then save it. I'm not interested in that at all. Dustless bluntly refused after receiving the tea from Wanli Guyoli. Of course not. Dustless immediately changed his mind. He was not surprised by Dustless's rejection. If he was the king, he would also reject without hesitation. It was good to be free. Why would he want to be someone else's pawn? However, I still hope that when the god of disobedience appears, Your Excellency can protect our country. With a face full of sincerity, Winterhorse said, In return, my country can agree to all of your conditions. Dustless's performance was mediocre. He had already guessed that this would be the case. Okay, if you know that I'm in this country and still dare to come out, it's a blasphemy to me. Rubbing his chin, Dustless waved his hand and said. Then he stretched leisurely and remembered Erica's instructions. When he was about to retreat home, he suddenly smelled something unusual. It was a hissing sound similar to a python. Ah! I didn't finish my sentence for long, and you came to add insult to injury. You did it on purpose. How can I accept this, Miss Athena? Looking up at the sky, Dustless happened to find a cold gaze sizing him up. It was Athena who he encountered a few days ago in Sardinia, Italy. At this moment, her expression was cold, and her cold temperament seemed to be isolated from the world. There was a faint hostility in her eyes. This guy is extraordinarily strong. He can still remain so calm in the face of a god. Winterhorse secretly clicked his tongue. When he heard that the opponent was Athena, his body seemed to be fixed in place. After all, she was a god. In front of her, humans were just ant-like grains of sand not worth mentioning. If she wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. You have my scent on you. Staring at Dustless for a long time, Athena finally said something inexplicable. Oh, no way is there something wrong with my ears. Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli and Winterhorse were stunned. Wanli Guyoli's face was full of awkwardness. She vaguely understood what Athena meant. She immediately cursed Dustless in her heart for being a womanizer and not even letting go of a god. Winterhorse secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up. He was shocked that he even dared to lay his hands on a god. As expected of the lawless king. Seeing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth twitched. He found that Wanli Guyoli and Winterhorse were looking at him differently. He snapped at Athena, watch your words. Don't cause a misunderstanding. Dustless could not help but be angry. He cursed Athena in his heart for deliberately sowing discord. As surpassers in different fields, why should we care about the feelings of ordinary people? Let them think what they want. It has nothing to do with me. From the beginning to the end, Athena's tone was calm and collected. She did not even look at Wanli Guyoli and Winter Horse. In her eyes, except for Dustless, the others were just insignificant humans. Miss Athena, are you looking for me? Dustless asked. He was too lazy to talk to her about trivial matters. He said, if you still want to challenge me, I advise you to give up. The gap between us is too big. Awesome. 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 Hearing this, Winter Horse was full of admiration. He could not wait to go over and thank Dustless, daring to say that the gap between them was too big to a god. The person who said this was either a super strong person who had the power to destroy the world or a lunatic who sneaked out of a mental hospital during the holidays. Chapter 1428. Both Thousand Miles Guyoli and Winter Horse Gorgon tensed up. They thought that Athena would cause a ruckus if she went berserk, but to their surprise she remained silent. She just floated quietly in the sky, looking down at Dustless silently, her eyes blinking as she circled Dustless, as if thinking about something. It can't be wrong, you do have my scent on you. Athena repeated again. Her light tone was much heavier than before, and her tone was firm. This girl? Hearing this, Dustless frowned and looked at Athena with a slightly dissatisfied look. Judging from her performance, she did not seem to be lying. Could it be, suddenly thinking of a possibility, Dustless guessed, could it be the Gorgon stone? Speaking of which, I just met Erica. Athena doesn't seem like someone who would cause trouble for no reason. If Erica had the Gorgon stone and Dustless had come into contact with her, then everything could be explained. The thing you want is useless, but, with a slightly serious tone, Dustless suggested, I know someone who might have it. If you don't mind, you can come with me. You know? Athena's gem eyes rippled as she stared quietly at Dustless, hesitating for a moment, unable to make up her mind. Who knows what kind of person this guy is? To be fair, this guy is too strange. What, a god is afraid of me? Dustless sneered and said sarcastically, and you are a goddess of the Trinity, it seems that you are just SOSO. Humph, you were lucky to defeat me last time. After being repeatedly provoked by Dustless, Athena's calm heart burst into flames and she said unkindly, so what if I go with you? Lead the way. With that, Athena landed on the ground like a dragonfly skimming the water, and calmly walked to Dustless's side, her eyes clearly saying that she would follow him. How can you be so capricious? You really are a problem child. Seeing this, Dustless smiled bitterly, and gave an apologetic look to Guyoli and Gorgon Winterhorse. Who are you calling a problem child? I don't even know how old I am. Athena said coldly. Dustless's words hit her where it hurts. Only by retrieving the Gorgon stone can she regain her divine position and age. That was why she was so happy to track the Gorgon stone. Speaking of which, if I help you find the Gorgon stone, how will you thank me? Dustless asked with a smile. As a god, you shouldn't be stingy. Damn it, are you kidding me? Did he even know who he was talking to? Is this a conversation between friends from the wrong script? Wanli Guyoli and Ganshan Dong Ma looked at each other and saw the helplessness and shock in each other's eyes. This was a legendary deity, not a hawker in the market. There was no such thing as bargaining. At least you should be a bit more serious. Thank you? Athena raised her eyebrows and tilted her head as if she was thinking, and after a few seconds of silence, she awkwardly found that she had no reward. No need to thank me, you have provoked me as a god before, this time help me find the Gorgon stone, and I can let you go. Athena said seriously. This fellow's narcissism is on par with sect leader Luo Haolua. Dustless cursed his bad luck, and when he thought about it he suddenly realized that other than Guyoli, all the women around him, whether it was Luo Hao, Erica, or now Athena, all had this narcissistic trait. But then again is the Gorgon stone with Erica. If Athena knows that I lied to her, she will definitely be torn down by Serene Flower's family. Dustless sighed and he could only take one step at a time. That. Guyoli quietly approached Dustless and said softly, is this really okay? She is the god of disobedience and can bring about a devastating disaster. Gorgon Winterhorse did not say anything, but he looked at Athena nervously. Obviously, he had the same idea, and being associated with the god of disobedience was tantamount to asking for trouble. You are right, but, at this point, Dustless looked at Gorgon Winterhorse and pointed at Athena and said, why don't you help me deal with her? Hearing this, Gorgon Winterhorse stumbled and almost fell. He was about to open his mouth to refute, but he found a cold gaze locked on him, and then his body suddenly lost control and he could not move and even breathing was difficult. He looked up and saw Athena's cold eyes looking down at him. Gulp. Gorgon Winterhorse broke out in cold sweat, and he secretly sighed at his naivety and even ignorance. One of them was a peerless demon king, and the other was a high and mighty god. The agreement between the two of them was not something a human could interfere with. We will not interfere with the opinions of the two of you as outsiders. Gorgon Winterhorse wanted to die. Being remembered by two unprecedented figures, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Goodbye. Cupping his hands, Dustless swaggered off with Athena following closely behind. Plop. Gorgon Winterhorse sat down on the ground, feeling the pressure. He was already sweating profusely, and in front of the king and god, he really could not summon up the will to resist. To put it bluntly, if he angered Dustless and Athena, the country of Japan would disappear from the map of the earth, and the powerful combat power of the two could easily destroy a country. Chapter 1429. Winterhorse thought of his reckless action and cursed his stupidity. That was provoking the king and god. Maybe it would only take a moment to kill them and his lowly life. Damn it, this world is so cruel and unfair. Winterhorse said emotionally. The probability of the number of kings and gods increasing was 0, and humans were just a weak group waiting to be dominated. Not everyone was like Dustless, who had the power to destroy the world and could easily kill gods. Looking at the whole world, there were only 7 god-slayers. Just this crazy probability alone showed the probability of the birth of a god-slayer. It's getting closer. Down the street, Athena followed Dustless. She could feel the aura of the Gorgon stone getting closer and closer. Following Dustless was definitely the right choice. Are you not afraid that I will betray you and get the Gorgon stone and kill you? Athena asked curiously as she looked at the calm Dustless. I believe that I will keep my promise. Dustless shrugged with an indifferent expression and then added, of course, I have enough confidence in my own strength. Hearing this, Athena's eyes widened as she thought to herself, this guy's eloquence has not deteriorated at all. In fact, Dustless was just looking down on her. Basically, he was quietly telling Athena that even if she regained her strength, she would not be on par with him, and he was not afraid of her sudden attack. What a confident guy. Athena frowned. Although she did not want to admit it, it was undeniable that Dustless did have that kind of strength. We're here. Walking in front of an apartment, Dustless gestured for her to enter. It is indeed here. When she heard that Shizuka Kusanagi was in front of her house, Athena's heart throbbed even more, and her heart beat faster, and she even saw the Gorgon stone in a daze. Thank you. Athena's thin lips parted slightly, revealing a rare touch of true emotion, but it sounded bitter, and a blush flashed across her face. This little girl also has a cute side. Seeing this, Dustless smiled and invited, come in and have a seat. I don't think Jinghua will dislike you. That won't be necessary. Just go in and bring out the Gorgon stone. I'll wait outside. Athena shook her head. She was used to being alone and was not good at socializing. Don't tell me you won't run while I run? Dustless teased, I'm sure you've seen my speed. Even as a god, you won't be able to catch up to me. Indeed. Athena nodded. You can run, but I'll tear her house down. Athena said in a soft voice. This barbaric goddess is really unreasonable. Dustless smiled bitterly and stepped into the room. A warm breeze blew against his face, making him feel very comfortable. You're finally back. Erika on the sofa breathed a sigh of relief. Kusanagi Shizuka was already asleep. She had been waiting for Dustless for a long time. Where's the Gorgon stone? Dustless asked faintly as he poured himself a cup of hot tea. You know about it? Hearing this, Erika was stunned for a moment before she looked at the cold Dustless and said awkwardly, I'm sorry to hide this from you. They had no choice but to give the Gorgon stone to me. This kind of thing will attract revenge wherever it is kept. Only by giving it to you as the king can you protect him. So you're saying that I have to protect it? After taking a sip of tea, Dustless remained calm and said, leave her to me. I will protect the Gorgon stone with my life. Protect the peace of the world. That's the king in my heart. Hearing this, Erika revealed a cheerful smile. She immediately jumped in front of Dustless and gently pecked him on the face. Smells so good. Dustless nodded slightly, and then took the initiative to seal Erika's thin lips, and quietly took the Gorgon stone in his hand. Ahem, I suddenly remembered that I left something at school. I'll be back soon. With that, Dustless turned into a hurricane and disappeared, leaving a stunned Erica behind. The Gorgonstone, here you go. Looking at Athena, who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, Dustless handed the Gorgonstone to Athena and threw it to her without even blinking. Go. Athena took the Gorgonstone in shock. Her arms were trembling as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. The reason why she did not want to step into the room was that she felt that there was a trap, but now it seemed that she was overthinking it. Thank you, I will remember this favor. Athena thanked him seriously, and at the same time used the same tactic as Erica, leaving a kiss mark on Dustless's face while he was distracted. Beauty and beauty. Dustless was very pleased with himself, and just as he was about to attack Athena, a hoarse voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless stopped as if he had been electrocuted. I say, you too. A shrill voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless and Athena looked at each other and followed the source of the voice. It was Erica, whose veins were bulging. Damn it, caught in the act. Seeing this, Dustless knew that things were not going well, and he broke out in cold sweat. Especially when he had just obtained the Gorgonstone, Dustless had colluded with the enemy and provided it to Athena, and there would be a bloodbath. You. Glaring at Dustless, Erica was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She had just given the Gorgonstone to Dustless for safekeeping, and the next second he gave it to Athena. Chapter 1430. Erica glared at Dustless, not bothering to hide her anger. She did not expect this guy to be so cunning. She had just given the Gorgonstone to him for safekeeping, and Dustless had given it to the enemy in such a short period of time. Using the Gorgonstone to win the enemies. Erica's face was red with embarrassment. She had seen the scene between Dustless and Athena clearly, and she wished she could find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. How could she go out and meet people in the future? That is a reward from a beauty to a servant. Athena said matter-of-factly as she stared at Dustless, occasionally showing a satisfied smile, as if she was extremely satisfied with Dustless as a servant. Wait. Dustless could no longer remain calm and asked, Servant? When did I become your servant? Even rudely. We are still enemies. I am very satisfied with you, and it is your fortune to be my servant. Athena repeated, her firm tone filled with possessiveness. What kind of trouble is this? After a few bitter laughs, Dustless said with a straight face, Miss Athena, I am very pleased that you think highly of me, but I am not interested in being your servant. Please go back. You fool. Erica moved closer to Dustless and scolded, Now you know it's troublesome? Were you blinded by lust? This guy might destroy the world, and once Athena gets the Gorgonstone, she may recover all her strength. Don't worry. Patting Erica on the shoulder, Dustless explained, the so-called Gorgonstone was originally Athena's, and I personally don't think it's too much to return it to its rightful owner. You. Hearing this, Erica's bitter smile deepened and she felt like crying. Although Dustless's words made sense, it still depended on who the other party was. Since you don't agree, I can only force you to agree. Athena said seriously, suddenly feeling that it was not bad to turn Dustless into a servant, and Athena felt very satisfied at the thought of the dead man being turned into a servant. Boom boom boom. Athena's body erupted with an unimaginable amount of mana. Like a volcano erupting, purplish-black mana overflowed. Rings of light gradually spread out and quickly engulfed the entire sky. At the same time, a crackling sound came from Athena's body. Looking at the source, Athena's body expanded rapidly as if she had been injected with hormones. On the surface he looked like a 12 or 13-year-old child. But now, he had transformed into a high and mighty god that could only be watched from afar and not played with. Athena's figure grew bigger, and her voluptuous figure gradually became more prominent. She wore ancient clothing and her silver hair flowed down to her waist. Her purple-black eyes were as beautiful as gems, and they even glowed as bright as moonlight. This guy can't be serious, right? Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. If he had been killed directly, he could still understand. But now, this unexpected script was completely different from what Dustless had imagined. Come here, my loyal servant. Athena smiled and hooked her finger, and her charm increased greatly. She was like a peerless beauty, and her whole body was filled with fatal temptation. In a trance, Athena's mentality changed. If she wanted to defeat the enemy, she did not have to rely on strength. It might be more interesting to defeat him in another way. Sorry, I'm not that interested. Dustless repeated again, and at the same time, his back was already overflowing with a large amount of light. He knew that right now, only strength could tame Athena. Miss Athena doesn't know how to repay kindness at all. Dustless sighed softly. She had been scolded and given the Gorgon stone to Athena. This guy kissed her and now he wants to turn against her. How shameless. At the same time, Dustless realized that he had suffered a great loss. Just as well I can also get some interest back, Dustless said with relief. He could take advantage of this opportunity to get back the interest. Otherwise he would have suffered a great loss. Erica, just protect Static Flower and don't get hurt. This guy is my cup of tea. Dustless motioned Erica to hurry back to the room. The fight later might affect the two of them. Kaibao of the King. Dustless used the exclusive skill of a tycoon as soon as he entered the arena. In an instant, it was as if he had arrived at a magnificent palace. The surroundings were golden and beautiful. Naive, you want to stop me with these pieces of scrap metal? After recovering her full strength, Athena was full of confidence. Her cold eyes were like the temperature of water as they quietly swept across the sky. Ka. All the weapons that she had her eyes on disappeared, turning into stones that fell around Dustless. All the weapons that Athena saw collapsed. I told you a long time ago that I am completely different from before. Do you regret it now? But I'm sorry, I won't hand over the Gorgon stone to you, it's mine to begin with. The mighty Athena said proudly. She was a completely different person from before. Not to mention capturing Dustless as a servant, she could even take him in and keep him. You have become stronger. You can't be underestimated. Dustless nodded and said solemnly. His words sounded like he was quite afraid of this girl, but his graceful actions and calm expression silently mocked the girl for overestimating herself. But Miss Athena, you seem to have been careless. After a while, Dustless suddenly chuckled. One sentence made Athena's invincible attack pause. What is this? When did this happen? Athena was shocked. When she realized that she was surrounded. Chapter 1431. Dustless was secretly amused. Athena didn't seem to have figured it out. She thought that she could match him just because she had regained her former strength. That was a big mistake. Let me go. Athena, who felt the comfort of the shackles, whispered. At the same time she struggled with all her might, trying to break through the shackles with brute force. However, while dreams were beautiful, reality was abnormally cruel. Athena used all her strength, but still could not escape the powerful shackles of the shackles. What is this thing? She was so tired that she gasped for breath. It was just a chain, yet she couldn't get rid of it even though she was a god. Athena felt like she was dreaming. She felt like she was in a dream. This is the heavenly lock. Without further ado, Dustless only said the name of the weapon. This is a weapon specially used to bind gods. The higher your divinity, the stronger the heavenly lock. Upon hearing this, Athena was speechless. Her lips moved, but in the end she was speechless. What else could she say when he even had such an overpowered weapon? I refuse to accept this. Athena gritted her teeth. She had just recovered to her peak, and before she could enjoy the surging power, she was easily subdued by Dustless. How could she accept this? You refuse to accept this? So what, you are now my captive. Dustless pursed his lips, and had to remind her that she had failed and was captured. Furthermore, as a captive, I can do whatever I want to you. This was what it meant when he said that failure was the end of everything. What are you trying to do? Athena's neck shrank back as a bad thought flashed through her mind. Upon hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously, and then walked lightly to Athena and said without batting an eyelid, Miss Athena, I have done you a great favor and I gave you the Gorgon stone. I thought that I would let you go, but now you want to take revenge on me and make me your servant? How can I let you go unscathed? Athena's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized that something was wrong. What is he trying to do? Erica was also puzzled. To be honest, she did not understand some of Dustless's sudden actions. She was just a god of disobedience and killing her would be the end of it. What was the point of letting her go? Under Erica's confused gaze, Dustless walked behind Athena. What are you trying to do? I am a god. Turning her head to look at Dustless behind her, Athena felt even more uneasy. She had the illusion that she was being stared at by a smiling tiger, and her whole body trembled abnormally. Aren't you a god? Didn't you want to catch me? I'll teach you a lesson. Clap, 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 clap. A crisp sound suddenly came. Athena and Erica were both stunned. It was extremely rhythmic, but for some reason, Erica had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall her. This guy. He even dared to god, Estishes s twos a gods asterisk 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 s asterisk s asterisk s a star. But, you know that was the way just thinking about it made Erica panic as if the world was about to be destroyed. This guy was gambling with the safety of the whole world. Nice touch. Dustless nodded slightly with a satisfied expression. He looked at Athena, and he could vaguely hear her grinding her teeth, and her breathing was dozens of times faster than usual. Hey Miss Athena, you have to calm down now. Although I am the health doctor of Qingjia School, it will be troublesome if you faint from anger. I might have to perform CPR. Dustless teased her with a serious and teasing tone. You? Athena's face flushed red as she glared at Dustless. Her arms and legs were all bound by the heavenly chains, and even though Dustless was close at hand, she could not attack. She could only suppress her anger and glare at him. She swore to herself that she would make Dustless pay her back 1,000 times in the future. You still want to take revenge on me? This god is a little arrogant. Don't you realize the gap between us now? Dustless stared at Athena, and even though she hid her desire for revenge very cleverly, he could still see it clearly. Hee. Then there was a burst of strange laughter and Athena trembled. Kill me if you dare. Athena glared at Dustless fiercely and her body was cold. Even if you kill me, no one will let you have an easy time in the future. Even now, you are still so stubborn, Miss Athena. Dustless shook his head slowly, and his eyes shot out bursts of terrifying light. Gulp. Even with Athena's calm temperament, she could not help but feel her scalp tingle. Who knew what kind of perverted things this guy could do? Ahem. Dustless coughed softly, cleared his throat and said loudly, in that case I can only continue to teach Miss Athena a lesson. It is not good to fight and kill. Dustless shrugged and showed an I am very kind expression. Keep pretending. The fox's tail that you hide will be exposed eventually. Erica scolded in her mind. Why didn't you say that when you bullied Mercator and Velislana? She looked at Athena and saw that the heavenly chains had tied her up tightly, and she could not move at all. The so-called god was now like a fish on the chopping board, and Dustless could do whatever he wanted to her. At this point, Erica actually sympathized with Athena. Encountering someone like Dustless who didn't play by the rules could be considered as her unlucky year. Slap, slap, slap. There were 2 more crisp sounds. Erica knew without looking that Athena's butt had been slapped again. Chapter 1432. Feeling the faint pain from her buttocks, Athena's eyes were spitting fire. If looks could kill, Dustless would have been reduced to dust by now. As one of the Trinity, she was actually spanked by a servant. Athena was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood, especially when there was a bystander watching her suffer the greatest humiliation of her life. Athena wished she could find a hole to hide in. You dare to fight me? Dustless smiled smugly. In Erica's eyes, this frivolous and arrogant expression was a prelude. However, he had to admit that this trick was very effective against a goddess like Athena who thought highly of herself. The more Athena valued her dignity, the more Dustless trampled on it. I'm going to kill you, Athena growled. Her eyes were filled with endless coldness as she looked at Dustless. A mere servant dared to spank her master's buttocks. Where was her dignity? How was she going to survive in the future? Especially when there was a bystander. You're at such a disadvantage and you still want to kill me? Dustless sneered and reminded Athena out of friendship, maybe you don't know, but I have a special hobby. I like to film the embarrassing state of the enemies I've defeated. Erica, go and bring me the high-definition camera I bought for 50 million yen. I want to film Miss Athena's unforgettable. Wait. Seeing that Erica really ran into the room, Athena finally could not hold it in any longer. The terrifying sound of teeth grinding also disappeared. In the end, she lowered her head and admitted defeat. Let me go this time. I can what? This is a big problem. Athena thought hard for a long time but couldn't come up with a reason. Her delicate little face was troubled. Besides, she had always regarded Dustless as the best servant. Since you like to make me your servant so much, with a wicked smile, Dustless suggested, then you can be my servant first. It feels good to have a goddess as my servant. Erica and Athena both spat out a mouthful of blood. Especially Athena, the veins on her forehead bulged and her body burst out with a purple-black evil light. It was a high-density murderous aura that was enough to make people collapse. Make me your servant? Athena was so angry that she laughed and said sarcastically, you fought me for 300 rounds. If you didn't defeat me with such despicable means, I wouldn't mind being your servant. However, Dustless ignored her. It just so happens that my arms have been a little sore recently. I might as well use your butt to train my arm strength. After saying that, Wu Qin went even further this time. He directly lifted Athena's clothes, revealing her white and tender skin. It was so dazzling that he felt dizzy. Just a moment ago they were separated by clothes, but now they were touching skin to skin. You despicable and shameless bastard, I will kill you. Athena bellowed, not caring about her image as a goddess. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to him. What he got in return was always that crisp collision. Pa pa pa. Athena's eyes widened. She wanted to bite Dustless to death. This guy was too evil. As a god slayer, he did not have any demeanor that a god slayer should have. He used the most despicable means without any bottom line. I agree to be your servant. Hurry up and let go of me. Athena, who had no choice, could only admit defeat. Who asked this guy to be so inhumane? Is it that simple? Dustless reluctantly withdrew his right hand. Looking at Athena's submissive expression, it did not seem like he was deceiving her. He removed the shackles of the heaven lock. Idiot, of course it's not that simple. As soon as he said that, Athena's expression changed faster than flipping a book. Black light surged in her hand, and a crescent-shaped sickle was formed in an instant. She swept it across the air without hesitation. Clang clang clang. The sound of steel colliding spread. When the cold light of the sickle was about to tear Dustless apart, it was stopped by a western sword and could not pass through for the time being. Well done, my lovely Miss Knight. Dustless gave her a thumbs up. Erica's reaction speed was very fast and decisive. Get out of my way. I'm going to get rid of this evil. Athena gnashed her teeth. Her butt was still numb. If it were not for Dustless's existence, she would have found a hole to hide in. Sorry, although I sympathize with your experience, a knight cannot run away from a battle. Erica's eyes were resolute, and her sonorous voice was unshakable. Also, as a god, are you going to go back on your words? Since you have agreed to be my king's servant, you should abide by the agreement. Erica said with a solemn expression. As a loyal knight, she hated people who went back on their words and destroyed the jump agreement the most. In her eyes, that was unforgivable. Humph, that's because this evil man used dirty means to force me. If it were you, would you be willing to be the servant of a mediocre man? Athena retorted without fear. Her words hit the nail on the head, and Erica, who was usually eloquent, was speechless. She racked her brains and found that she could not refute. It was undeniable that this was the undeniable truth. No matter who it was, they could not accept such unfair treatment, not to mention that Athena was a goddess with a loftier heart than the sky. Why are you saying that I'm a beast? I'm just playing a game with you, Miss Athena. Why do you hate me so much? Dustless raised his arm with an aggrieved expression, as if he had suffered a great loss. His face was full of pain. Even Erica wanted to help Athena fight against Dustless. Chapter 1433. Looking at Dustless, Erica finally understood Athena's interest. It was indeed tragic to have such a strange enemy. Get out of my way. Athena's eyes were filled with hostility. Her eyes glowed with blue light. Get out of the way, Erica. Dustless, sensing the danger, roared. Whoosh, whoosh. Although she didn't understand Dustless's intention, as a knight, Erica still chose to obey the king's order. She retreated to Dustless's side. Ka, ka, ka. The wall behind Erica was immediately unlucky and turned into rotten stone. What a dangerous and powerful ability. As expected of a god. Erica was amazed and felt lucky. If it weren't for Dustless, she might have turned into stone too. This was the strength of a god. The so-called geniuses were no match for them. Whoosh, whoosh. Athena flashed and appeared in front of Dustless with a stride. She brandished her scythe and charged over. Dustless frowned. Light gathered in his hand and compressed into a golden sword. It was impossible to make her submit without showing some of his strength. Clang, clang, clang. Dazzling sparks flew. The sharpness of Kusunagi's sword clashed with Athena's scythe. The shockwaves from their battle forced Erica to step back. He's still so strong even without using his authority? Erica was impressed. Even without using his authority, Dustless could still fight a so-called god head-on and even suppress Athena. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless waved the heavenly sword of clouds with all his might. There was no technique to speak of. It was just the most violent and powerful strength. Athena was forced to retreat. What kind of monster is this guy? Sensing the numbing power in her hand, Athena was shocked. Now that she had regained her divine position, She had naively thought that she could crush Dustless. Now the situation was completely opposite. Boom boom boom. Dustless's violent sword strikes did not contain any technique, but it forced Athena to retreat. She was completely suppressed, and it was obvious that Dustless was at a disadvantage. Although I have countless abilities, my strength is not weak either, Dustless said with a confident smile. After experiencing training in 4 different worlds, the strength of his fists had long reached a limit. His strength was strong enough to easily shatter mountains. Bang! As soon as his voice fell, Dustless increased the strength in his hand by dozens of times, forcing Athena to retreat. I'm indeed not as good as you, Athena said in a low voice. She gripped her scythe even tighter, and sweat had already appeared on her hands. The pressure of Mount Tai made her feel a sense of despair. She also felt a sense of respect for Dustless. After all, the strong were respected in every world, and Athena could not deny that Dustless had the right to do whatever he wanted. Strength represented everything. Really? He was willing to give up? Finally willing to leave? No, finally willing to be my servant? Dustless originally wanted to tell Athena to get lost and leave this place as soon as possible, but in the end he decisively changed his mind. It was indeed a good thing to have a god as a servant to serve him tea. Dream on. Athena, whose face was red from choking, retorted and swung her scythe at him. Amaterasu. Dustless's eyes widened, and a large flame appeared in his hand, burning fiercely. Then he used all his strength and shouted, "Earth life!" The Amaterasu instantly transformed into a sharp black sword. Let's see what's different. Athena, who did not believe it, snorted softly. A large black light condensed in her hand, and it looked extremely ferocious. It vaguely looked like a snake head full of fangs. Bite him to death. As soon as her voice fell, the black snake head that she had painstakingly condensed spewed out like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, it rushed in front of Dustless, its bloody mouth open as if to swallow the world. Boring. With a light stroke of his arm, a ray of cold light swept across the void, and the giant snake was instantly eroded by the black flames. Ow 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 ow. The miserable roar was completely different from the mighty roar just now. It was filled with endless pain, and in just a few seconds, the giant snake body was buried in the flames. So strong, Athena's eyes flashed with ripples when she saw this, and she instinctively took a step back. This overwhelming power was too strong, and it was difficult for her to have the courage to fight back. All that was left was pure despair. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A divine rainbow crossed time and space at an incredible speed, and when it landed in Athena's eyes, it was faster than the speed of light. By the time she reacted, the invincible black sword was already at her throat. It's over, Miss Athena? The young man's dry lips opened slightly, and as if he had jumped through space, he appeared in front of Athena, and the peerless divine sword ended this boring and meaningless battle. Still not convinced? Seeing that Athena was silent, Dustless smiled calmly and said, "How about this? You choose a way of duel that suits you. You can choose any place and you can decide the rules." No need. Athena shook her head, and her arrogant self-esteem instantly collapsed. The painful defeat made her understand the true meaning of, there is always someone better than you. What shocked her the most was that Dustless had used his own power, and Velaslana's authority did not have a single one. The condition before my trip is that I am willing to be your servant. Hearing this, Dustless stretched and thought to himself, that's more like it. Everything before was unnecessary. I can just use a strong fist to make her speechless. Chapter 1434. Do you need to take back the Gorgon Stone? Erica asked quietly after a few seconds of silence. Even though Erica's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz and could be ignored, Athena, who was a god, heard it clearly. She immediately looked at Dustless nervously. If Dustless took it by force, she would not be able to do anything. It's useless to give me a stone, keep it. Without even thinking about it, Dustless refused. With the Gorgon Stone, Athena would have the strength of her heyday, and if she peeled off the Gorgon Stone, she would return to her original appearance and become a 12 or 13-year-old girl, and there was a fatal factor, her strength would be greatly reduced. No one wants to have their strength reduced, especially Athena, who had just recovered her strength, and she did not want her strength to be short-lived and lose its shine after just one night. As such, Dustless did not try to snatch the Gorgon Stone by force. It's getting late, let's go back to sleep, Dustless said and took the lead into the room. By the way, there are no extra rooms at the moment, where are you going to sleep? Dustless asked as he turned to look at Athena, who was in her mature form. Although Kusanagi Protector's room was still empty, he could not let Athena sleep in a dead man's room. It's simple. Athena said casually and looked seriously at Dustless and said, I'm willing to accept my loss, and since I promised to be your servant after losing, I will definitely abide by the agreement, so I'll sleep in your room. Athena's matter-of-fact tone immediately aroused Erika's dissatisfaction, and she said, regardless of Athena's identity as a god, I strongly object. Mind your own business. Dustless pursed his lips, knowing what Erika was thinking because often in the middle of the night, he would be ambushed by her. If Athena joined in, wouldn't it be worse? Absolutely not allowed. You can sleep in Kusanagi Protector's room, you two are good friends anyway. Erika made the decision for Dustless. Without giving Dustless a chance to speak, she brought Athena to Dustless's bedroom. It seemed that Athena was going to take over Dustless's room. *CK Is she really a servant? There's something wrong with this script. Why am I the one being kicked out? It seems like the master-servant relationship has really been switched. Above Dustless's head, 100,000 crows and 100,000 grass mud horses whizzed past. Stop right there and then. Striding to Erika and Athena, Dustless asked solemnly, to tell you the truth, I'm scared of ghosts. Why don't? Glancing at Athena from the corner of his eye, Dustless's appetite was aroused. After regaining her divine status and age, Athena's hot body was undoubtedly revealed. Her voluptuous cleavage was not inferior to Erika's at all. Her clothes were bulging, especially the clothes she was wearing were rather special. In Dustless's eyes, her skin was vaguely visible, as if it were transparent. Her snow-white skin was vaguely visible. In particular, Athena's identity as a god was like a fatal poppy, teasing Dustless's already restless heart. How great would it be to have such a servant? She could fight with her body and warm up the bed. Dustless suddenly felt that such a servant was too worthwhile. Why don't I suffer and sleep with Athena? After saying that, Dustless reached out to grab Athena's soft arm, but he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was hard and didn't feel like a soft and boneless hand. He instinctively turned his head. *CK You're so fast? Why didn't you react so quickly when I drew my sword to kill the enemy? Dustless slandered in his heart. What he was grabbing was a spear, and Erika was looking at him with an unfriendly face. Her eyes were clearly saying that there was no way he could steal her. Do you want me to sleep alone? Dustless was speechless. Although he didn't believe in ghosts, sleeping in the room of a person who had just died, and Dustless had even beaten him when he was alive, it was inevitable that he would be obedient. I don't mind. Athena's exquisite face was expressionless and calm. Her purple-black crystal eyes stared at Dustless, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. In fact, the gods had no opinion on the selection of a mate. There was only one criterion: weak strength. Nothing else mattered. In the ancient era that Athena had lived in, strength was even more important. Whether one was ugly or not, including other races, these were actually not important. In ancient myths, there were many stories of humans and beasts becoming partners. Hearing that, Erika almost vomited blood in frustration. She looked at Athena speechlessly. As a god, you're too blind. This guy is clearly trying to take advantage of you. What's the point of this? Seeing this, Dustless was secretly pleased. He winked at Erika and suggested a bad idea. If you think there's a problem, you can actually join us. Anyway, the bed is big enough to accommodate 3 people. I think there shouldn't be a problem. Erika was speechless. She didn't want to leave Dustless alone, but if she took the initiative to join them, she would lose face. You guys are still awake after all that noise? It's almost dawn now. A lazy voice came from the depths of the corridor. Looking over, Dustless realized that it was Kusanagi Shizuka. He knew that his plan to take down the goddess tonight was going to fail. Shizuka, this is Athena. She's an assistant in the infirmary. Something happened today, so she can only stay at home. Why don't you two squeeze in? Erika pointed at Dustless and suggested. This guy is really good at lying. Turning back to the room, Dustless knew that he had no chance tonight. He knew Shizuka's personality very well. Although she was sometimes strict with her words, she was really kind at heart. Therefore, he would accept Erika's suggestion. Chapter 1435. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. Last night, Athena and Shizuka Kusanagi slept together. Dust had no choice but to release the fallen angel Asuma Amano from the original world temporarily to quench her thirst. After that he let her go back. The devil's kung fu is so good, Dustless muttered as he put on his clothes. He was full of praises for Asuma Amano's kung fu. His legs were still a little weak. It will be ready sooner or later. Dustless, bro, we will take our leave first. Shizuka Kuzunagi's anxious voice came from downstairs. As for Dustless, he went downstairs leisurely. He was a doctor in the infirmary and had no other requirements. It was not a problem for him to wait for a while. Athena seems to have left too. He thought that Athena was still sleeping. Unexpectedly, there was no sign of her in Shizuka's room. She probably went out for something. Forget it. She shouldn't be missing. Dustless was too lazy to think about it since he could not find Athena. Her legs were her own, and he could not tie them up with a rope. After about half an hour, Wuxia finally arrived. It took him about 15 minutes to reach the infirmary. You really like lazy men. Before he opened the door of the infirmary, a dissatisfied voice came from inside. Is that the bald principal? Wuxia asked suspiciously. He gently pushed the door open and was immediately dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the figure close at hand. His head was spinning a little. The person in front of him was wearing a white coat with black stockings. Her perfect figure was exposed. She exuded a mature aura and was holding a white notebook. Athena? After confirming that he was not short-sighted, Dustless looked as if he had seen a ghost. You are dressed like this. Are you also a health teacher in this school? No, I'm your assistant now, Athena said with a serious expression. Assistant? You don't have to worry about it. Hurry up and go home. Not many people come to the infirmary. I am redundant as a health teacher, let alone an assistant like you. Dustless ordered Athena to leave so that she could be more reliable. It was ridiculous to be a doctor's assistant. She was only good at killing people. It's redundant. Athena looked at the information in her hand and nodded. There were only a few people who felt unwell every month. Dustless, the healthcare teacher, slept almost every day. Hurry up. An anxious voice came from the corridor. The infirmary is just up ahead. You guys be careful. I'll call Teacher Dustless first. As expected of the Lord of Hell. As soon as you arrived, someone immediately came to treat you. Dustless laughed sarcastically. He couldn't help but take a second look at Athena. Her perfect figure was even more perfect than Dustless had imagined. Athena just coldly swept a glance at Dustless and directly ignored him. It seems to be for young girls, Dustless said with a frown. At the same time, he caught sight of a familiar figure rushing towards him. Her little face was flushed with exhaustion, and she ran into the clinic in a huff. No, Teacher Dustless, there's a new student in our class. She suddenly fainted during class and is still unconscious. Wanli Guyoli said anxiously. Her voice was filled with endless worry. She is. Athena was as eye-catching as the bright moon in the night. Wanli Guyoli was quite afraid. She moved her body and hid behind Dustless. Why is Athena here? And she's dressed like this? Are you guys cosplaying? Wanli Guyoli asked softly. Athena was wearing the same gown as Dustless. She obviously looked like a doctor. How could she not be surprised? I'm now the healthcare teacher here, or rather, her assistant. Your principal has already agreed. Athena said calmly. Her voice was as calm as an ancient well. Agreed? Did you use some kind of evil trick to force her to agree? Dustless asked suspiciously. He had doubts about Athena's character. Bring the patient here first. Dustless looked at the door. It was a silver-haired girl and she looked familiar. Could it be? Dustless thought of the girl in front of him. Just as he was about to ask Wanli Guyoli, she started to explain. Her name is Liliana Kranikar. She's a new transfer student. Wanli Guyoli said bluntly. No wonder I remember her. So it's this girl. Does this mean that Marquis Warban wants to make a move on me? Even if he doesn't know his limits, there should be a limit. Dustless sneered in his heart. He was sure that Liliana Kranikar was temporarily sent here by him. He would probably come here in person soon. Be careful. Glancing at Wanli Guyoli, Dustless reminded her, the identity of a witch is very troublesome. You should know about the summoning ritual of the god of disobedience 4 years ago, right? Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli shivered and nodded silently. Really, you're too kind. You know that this guy could be an enemy, but you still chose to help him. Wanli Guyoli's kindness was overflowing. Thinking about it carefully, Marquis Warban was most likely targeting her. Dustless and Marquis Warban did not have any direct conflict. You two have similar personalities. Dustless changed the topic and said meaningfully. Wanli Guyoli blushed. When she first got close to Dustless she pretended to be sick. Perhaps Liliana was no exception. Alright, put this patient on the bed first. You can all go back to class. I'll treat her properly. Chapter 1436. Go back. Wanli Guyo looked at Dustless suspiciously. If Dustless did not know about Liliana's identity, she could still trust him. After all, they had no grudges against each other. However, now that she knew about Liliana's identity, the meaning was different. Don't worry, she's just a weak little girl. No matter how immoral I am, I won't kill her. Wu Chen made a solemn vow in a clear voice. All right then. Wanli Guyo took a deep look at Liliana and did not say much. Although they were both kings, Dustless had no reason to murder Liliana. After all, this guy could even let the god of disobedience go. There was no reason for him to murder a little girl. Moreover, just like what Wu Chen said, she was a little girl who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. With me around she won't die, Athena said softly. Finally they're all gone. After about 10 seconds Wanli Guyo and Wanli Guyo left. Only Athena and Dustless were left in the huge healthcare room. You know her? Pointing at the pale girl, Dustless asked. The two of you should be familiar with each other. That's not important. Athena did not care and said casually, I know that this girl's identity is not simple. I'm just curious about the god slayer behind her. I see. Dustless understood and immediately approached Liliana's bedside quietly. He cleared his throat and a sly look appeared in his eyes. He decisively chose to use the same old trick and deliberately said to himself, she doesn't look like she's sick. Could it be caused by her period? Quickly take off her underwear and let me check. Athena, who had just sat down, stood up reflexively and looked at Dustless with a green face. She shouted angrily, Are you kidding me? How can such nonsense wake her up? Don't. However, what made Athena petrified was that Liliana really stood up angrily. You bastard. Liliana glared at him angrily. Her delicate face was flushed red, and her fists were cracking. Her piercingly cold eyes were as deep as the cold wind. The infirmary suddenly became chilly, as if it was in a world of ice and snow. Dustless ignored Liliana's murderous aura and said to Athena with a smile, Although some of his strategies are terrible, I can't deny that they are very useful. Miss Liliana, you dare to invade my territory and even dare to injure people. Dustless said pointedly, This is a blatant provocation. Is Marquis Warban issuing a challenge to me? You know everything? Liliana was clearly stunned. She did not expect Dustless to know her identity. She clenched her fists tightly. Athena's appearance made her extremely nervous. As a god slayer, you actually colluded with a disobedient god? Liliana shouted angrily as she pointed at Athena. She believed that Dustless had betrayed humanity. Why not? In my eyes, there is no difference between humans, god slayers, and gods. Dustless explained nonchalantly, Everything in the world is just a type of life form. There is only a difference in strength. Liliana moved her mouth. She clearly felt that Dustless was a big liar, but she was powerless to respond. Kill her, Athena said calmly. A purplish-black light floated in her hand, and a gleaming scythe appeared. It locked onto Liliana with hostility, not concealing her murderous intent. Liliana's expression changed drastically. She immediately felt that her body was not listening to her. She knew that this was the effect of Athena's murderous aura, and she was powerless to deal with it. No matter what kind of genius one was, they would be unable to cope with the strength of a god. Liliana did not even have the courage to resist, especially when faced with a god and a god slayer whose strength was unfathomable. To put it bluntly, if she wanted to hurt someone she would definitely be killed in an instant. It was ridiculous for a mere human to dream of challenging a king and a god. Marquis Warban sent you here, right? That old man is not going to stop at all. Liliana tried to bluff her way out, but Dustless answered for her. He wants to use the god of disobedience, summoning ritual of the witches to kill more gods. His ambition is not small, and his desire for authority has reached the point where he has forgotten himself. Among the few god slayers he seems to have the most authority. How does this guy know so much? Liliana did not seem to be moved, but her tightly shut mouth was clenched so hard that her teeth were about to shatter. I have heard of that god slayer, Athena suddenly said. She thought about it and recalled. He hunts gods for fun. In the past, the god of disobedience, summoning ritual was related to him. However, he is quite bold to dare to set his sights on me. Dustless sneered, and the air suddenly became bone-chilling. But I really don't understand. I have no relationship with him and there is no enmity between us. Why did you enter Qingjia Academy? I only tamed Athena yesterday, and no matter how well-informed Marquis Warban is, he does not know that Athena is one of my people. Dustless was puzzled. Not tamed but submitted. Athena's tone was full of anger. She was not a beast and did not need to be tamed. Athena had only submitted to Dustless yesterday, and Marquis Warban obviously could not have come for him, nor could it be Erika or Kusanagi Shizuka. To an arrogant king like Marquis Warban, humans were not worth mentioning. Thus, only Dustless was left, but he was sure that he had not offended Marquis Warban. Now that Liliana had come to him for no reason, he could not understand. Chapter 1437. Dustless expressed that he really did not understand. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, the Godslayers would not want to offend each other. Now that Marquis Oban had come to him for no reason, Dustless was confused. I can't tell you that. Liliana gritted her teeth and rejected Dustless's expectations. In fact, she had no other choice. If she told Dustless the truth, Liliana was sure that Marquis Oban would kill her, and her future would be as miserable as his servants of the dead. Rather than that, she would rather be killed by Dustless. Tisk-a-tisk. Dustless smiled and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Not only did Liliana's heart skip a beat, but even Athena's expression changed slightly. The king disdained using despicable means, but Dustless was different. He would use whatever method was the quickest, and it did not matter if it was despicable or not, as long as it succeeded. Tsk. Erika is still in class. It's not appropriate to ask her to interrogate you on my behalf. It seems that I have to think of a way to solve this myself. Dustless knew that Erika had something on Liliana. The only pity was that Erika was in class at the moment. Dustless had to think of a way himself. Athena, prepare the clearest photo for me. Dustless suddenly said thoughtfully, I'll leave the photographer to you, Miss Athena. What do you want? Liliana and Athena asked at the same time. They looked at Dustless's cowardly smile, and bad thoughts arose in their minds. Idiot. Glaring at Athena, Dustless secretly scolded her for being insensible. He said righteously, didn't Miss Liliana say that she's sick just now? I've observed that she has gynecological diseases. Gynecological diseases? Liliana felt as if 100 million crows had flown past her forehead. Her whole face was twitching as she stared at Dustless, dumbfounded. She had already guessed what this guy was going to say. Our school's health center is lacking teachers. Including you and me, there are only 2 of us. How sad is this? So, when I treat Miss Liliana's gynecological disease later, you have to film the whole process. In the future, we can use it to publicize and tell the world about the greatness of our doctors. We can also use it as a free advertisement to attract more students. Dustless said with a serious expression. This guy. Looking at the serious Dustless, Athena was so angry that she was speechless. She looked at Liliana with pity and gave her a sympathetic look. Then he went to prepare the video camera. Fortunately, there was only one left in the clinic. Die. Unable to bear it any longer, Liliana exploded and slashed with her sword. Poochie. The tip of the sword sliced through Dustless's body, slicing him into 2. Before Liliana could even be pleasantly surprised, a warm glow emerged from the wound, and the split wound instantly healed. Too weak. Dustless shook his head and looked at Liliana's feet. He covered the left and right side of armament hockey and simply grabbed the long sword that could cut iron like mud. Let go of me. Liliana shouted angrily, and at the same time she used all her strength to increase her strength. However, sadly, no matter how hard she tried, she could not shake Dustless. Answer my question and I will let go. Dustless smiled contemptuously, knowing that Liliana would not give in if he did not teach her a lesson, so he lazily snapped his fingers. Kakaka. Liliana's school uniform suddenly burst, leaving only her underwear and underwear. The other dazzling snow-white skin was all exposed under Dustless's eyes. Shameless. Liliana cursed and quickly trotted to the corner to hide. Athena Ninja filmed this scene and carefully observed how the legendary beast was raised. Are you sick? You need treatment. Dustless shrugged casually and slowly approached Liliana. At this moment she was like a frightened rabbit. She had no fighting spirit and was abandoned by the world. Looking at Dustless, who was approaching her step by step, Liliana's insistence was completely crushed. Don't come over, I'm willing to tell you everything. Unable to take the blow, Liliana had no choice but to confess. She hurriedly said, "It was your master who spread the news, announcing to the world that you are her disciple. Marquis Warban and Luo Hao are mortal enemies, so he sent me to spy on you." She betrayed me? Dustless was instantly petrified. After a while, the corner of his mouth twitched and asked, "Luo Hao did this on purpose. I'm afraid she wants Marquis Warban to find trouble with me. Her purpose is probably to train me, but her plan is too insidious. What if I can't beat her and get killed by Marquis Warban? Even if you want to cheat your apprentice, you can't do this." "I don't know about this. Anyway, the news that you are Luo Hao's apprentice was spread by the Five Mountains Holy Sect under her orders. Marquis Warban and the Jiangnan Martial Queen are mortal enemies, so..." Seeing Dustless finally stop, Liliana relaxed. "You still need to train?" This time, it was Athena's turn to be speechless. In her opinion, Marquis Warban was not here to find trouble, but to die. That's her personality. Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. His face was full of confusion. No wonder Marquis Warban didn't mind the trouble of coming to Japan to find me. He probably wants to kill me as well. Luo Hao and Warban are mortal enemies. He probably wants to kill me to annoy Luo Hao, but he overlooked a big problem. I'm afraid he's the one who will be killed this time. Even though Warban had the most power, it was still not enough in Dustless' eyes. Power did not mean victory or defeat. They were completely incomparable. Chapter 1438. It was not that Dustless looked down on Marquis Oben, but he was too weak. Even Kusanagi guardians could not defeat him, let alone someone of his level. If he's not afraid of death, he can come at me. Stretching his body, Dustless said casually, "All right, Miss Liliana, you can leave now. We don't need your cooperation here anymore. You're free now." Liliana acted as if she did not hear him and stood there in a daze. Maybe she knows that she will die if she leaves. After all, she betrayed her king. That Marquis Oben is not a good person. He treats his subordinates like dirt. If he is unhappy, he can kill anyone at any time. Athena's beautiful eyes glowed as she saw through Liliana's thoughts. "So it's because of this?" Dustless frowned. Liliana's disguise was not bad, but she could not fool his golden gaze. Marquis Oben's cruelty was well known. Among the Godslayers, he had killed the most gods. Also, even if he killed Liliana, it would not be a big deal. She could still assist him in another way. She would become a servant of death. Hee. Dustless let out a strange laugh. Liliana and Athena instinctively distanced themselves from this guy. Who asked him to be so dangerous and perverted? "How about I show you a way out? Since you have nowhere else to go, why don't you be my..." "I heard that Liliana has sneaked into this school. Be careful." Erica interrupted Dustless without hesitation and barged into the healthcare room. She happened to see Liliana, who was only in her underwear, and Athena, who was busy filming. "Liliana? Erica?" The two girls said in unison. They obviously knew each other. "You came at the right time, Erica. This girl is Marquis Oben's subordinate. Now that she has betrayed that old man, how do you think I should deal with her?" "Deal with her? Is there a need to ask?" "Of course, we should rope her into our camp," Erica said without thinking. She had a good relationship with Liliana, but because of their different positions in the past, they were almost at odds with each other. Now that she had betrayed Marquis Warban, Erica would definitely not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't even think about it. Even if I die, I refuse to join this scum's camp." Liliana's face turned red. Now that she was only left with her underwear, she wished she could find a hole to hide in. "Really? What a pity." A sly smile appeared on Erica's face as she heaved a long sigh. "I was just about to publish your romance novel. I didn't expect you to seek your own death." "Romance novel?" Hearing this, Dustless and Athena were both stunned. Dustless said curiously, "Read it out loud. I want to hear Liliana's great literary talent." "All right." With an elegant smile, Erica took out the notebook that was filled with words. Not caring about Liliana's blushing face at all, she began to read, "Your love for me is like..." Pfft. After hearing the first few sentences, Dustless could not help but laugh. He looked at Liliana with his mouth agape and said in astonishment, "I didn't know you could write romance novels." He gave Liliana a thumbs up without hesitation, then motioned for Erica to continue reading. "We are like..." "Wait, I agree to your request." Liliana hurriedly begged for mercy. Their malicious smiles were a far greater blow to her than a simple physical attack. She had to suppress her anger and lower her head. Moreover, after offending and betraying Marquis Warban, unless she found someone to protect her, she would end up in a miserable state. The best outcome would be to become Marquis Warban's servant. That's the right choice, Miss Liliana. You will be honored by your decision in the future. Seeing that Liliana had given in, Dustless heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "If Marquis Warban knows that you betrayed him, that old fellow will definitely go berserk." Indeed. Liliana nodded in agreement. She understood Marquis Warban's character. Or rather, every person in a high position and power would be extremely wary of one kind of person: traitors. You want to use this little girl as bait to lure him? The intelligent Athena immediately understood Dustless's intention. She nodded and said, "It's not impossible to give it a try. Given Warban's personality, he will definitely take the initiative to kill us." "Are you crazy?" Liliana's eyes were gloomy and she muttered to herself like a machine, "That fellow is a god slayer, and he is the oldest supermaster who has killed the most gods. To be honest, if he hadn't killed so many gods, I wouldn't have been interested in him. It's precisely because he has killed so many gods that I am interested in him." Dustless said nonchalantly. If Marquis Warban could kill the most gods, it meant that he definitely had something extraordinary about him. He wanted to see how heaven-defying that old fellow was. "I think so too." Athena's beautiful eyes were smiling. It was rare for her to stand in the same trench as Dustless. That fellow's target, apart from Dustless, seems to be Wanli Guyoli as well. Of course I can't let him go. Even if we don't provoke such an ambitious person, he won't let us go. Therefore I also agree to kill Marquis Warban. Erica's beautiful face was tense and her breath was cold. "You," Liliana moved her mouth, but in the end she couldn't be bothered to say more. As the king, Dustless had already made the decision, so what could she, a small pawn who had just joined this group, say? Moreover, Athena, this big shot, had also agreed. Chapter 1439. The minority obeys the majority. This was a principle that had not changed since ancient times. We can gather Duke Warban, but we must at least have a suitable plan. We can't act rashly. The other party is the king with the most information and the most authority. Liliana said with a serious expression. "So what? That old fellow is actually very useless. He's just a little more experienced. Why does he like killing gods? It can be understood as a sign of cowardice. It's because he realizes that he's not strong enough, that he wants more authority. There's no need for a superfluous plan. Just trick him out and beat him up." Dustless said casually. "You're right. I actually think so too. A plan is too superfluous. Just tell him whose fist is bigger with pure strength." Athena agreed with Dustless's method, which was rare. The two jumped into the same trench at the same time and cooperated quite well. Erica sighed inwardly in disbelief. It was truly a miracle that two incompatible tigers could cohabit together. "Erica, what do you think?" Hearing Dustless and Athena's casual tone, Liliana could only look at Erica for help, hoping that she would give a suggestion that a normal person would have. "Liliana, this plan is indeed a little superfluous." Erica shrugged and said apologetically, "You have to understand that we have a king, a trinity goddess, and two powerful knights on our side. There's no need for a plan at all. The one who should be worried is Marquis Warban." Liliana opened her mouth but chose to close it in the end. She knew that the wise Erica of the past had disappeared. She had been brainwashed by Dustless and Athena. "Then let's take it one step at a time." Liliana finally compromised. Thinking about it carefully, Erica's words made sense. The one who should be worried was indeed Marquis Warban. After all, they had the advantage. "Lord Marquis." Liliana's respectful voice came from the dark and cold palace. She stood in the middle with her head lowered, not daring to breathe loudly or even raise her head. Even so, Liliana still felt her skin trembling uncontrollably. Her life would be mercilessly taken away by the master on the throne at any time. "Liliana," Marquis Warban looked up at the girl and asked calmly, "How is the information I need coming along? Don't give me a disappointing answer or else. You know the consequences." With that, Marquis Oban released his killing intent. "So strong." Liliana broke out in cold sweat. She forced the throbbing in the depths of Anai's soul and quickly said, "Lord Marquis, I have already inquired about that Dustless." "Really?" Marquis Warban chuckled and withdrew his murderous aura as he expectantly asked, "How did you attain the Tao? And is that fellow really Luohao's disciple?" "I did it through..." Liliana paused for a moment as she recalled Dustless's bad idea. She secretly cursed him for being a pervert before she clenched her teeth and said, "That guy is a pervert." I used my body in exchange for information. Liliana stared at Marquis Warband nervously. When she saw him nod as if he believed in this passable method, she was relieved. So that fellow really is Luo Hao's disciple. Then let's start with him. I heard that the witch named Wanli Guyoli is also very close to him. Let's get rid of them all at once. Marquis Warband chuckled, full of pride. He hated Luo Hao so much that he gritted his teeth. Other than that, there's also great news. Lilith glanced at Marquis Warband and said cautiously, other than that, Goddess Athena seems to be with that fellow. Are you sure? A greedy glint flashed in Marquis Warband's eyes. His tone rose several notches as he exclaimed, Goddess Athena? Ah! I've been looking for her for so long. I didn't expect her to be with Dustless. I didn't expect God to be so kind to me. My enemies, prey and assets are all gathered in one place. I've changed my mind. Take me to hunt them tonight. Marquis Warband tried to hide his calmness, but Liliana could still hear the anticipation and excitement in his voice. Her lips curled into a sinister smirk. This old man was too full of himself. At the same time, he had underestimated Dustless. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was the dead of night. Marquis Warband and his party arrived at the previously agreed-upon location in advance. He looked as if he had taken a stimulant, his face flushed. However, what made him frown was that the surroundings were cold and dark. There was no one in sight. It was barely what he had imagined. Are you sure it's here? Marquis Warband raised his eyebrows slightly. There was doubt in his voice. Of course. Liliana nodded affirmatively with a faint smile hanging at the corner of her mouth. Those fellows are really stupid. They had to find a suitable place to be buried. How could they choose such a barren place? How vulgar of them to treat their own funeral. Marquis Warband sneered contemptuously. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he was about to mock Dustless and his party when the night suddenly brightened. A fierce horse made of flames descended from the sky, and the sky suddenly cleared up. Damn it, we've been tricked. Marquis Warband, who was full of fighting spirit, spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1440. Marquis Warband was not an idiot. Instead, he was very shrewd. When the flaming horse had just descended from the sky, Liliana had taken the initiative to distance herself from him. What did this mean? Even a 3-year-old child knew what this meant. He had been abandoned. You dare betray me? Marquis Warband was furious. He had always been the one toying with others. He had not expected to be toyed with by Liliana. It was a great humiliation. Absolutely unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. Oh whoa. Marquis Warband was exceptionally calm in the face of the raging flames. He did not hesitate to use his abilities, and his appearance changed greatly in an instant. So big. Liliana, who had retreated far away, was shocked. She saw Marquis Warband transform into a huge werewolf. He was more than 30 meters tall, and he looked fearlessly at the falling horse. Oh whoa, whoa, whoa. His roars echoed throughout the sky. Just as the flaming horse was about to swallow Marquis Warband, a change suddenly occurred. Oh whoa. Marquis Warband opened his mouth leisurely, his huge mouth full of fangs swallowing the flames of the white horse. After that, Marquis Warband burped as if he had not had enough. Kiki, eerie laughter came from Marquis Warband's mouth. He roared fearlessly at the sky, his voice full of destruction. Dustless, I know you're hiding in the dark, you coward. Come out if you have the guts. Fight me to the death. Marquis Warband was like a madman who had lost control. He was in a deranged state, and his body was filled with a bone-piercing killing intent that made people want to retreat. However, the world was solemn and no one paid him any attention. This made Marquis Warband feel even more humiliated. Since you won't come out, I'll deal with this traitor. Marquis Warband turned his head and locked onto Liliana, his eyes cold. Every time his huge body twisted, there would be a cracking sound. The ground could not bear Marquis Warband's weight and collapsed. Damn traitor. Marquis Oban said through gritted teeth. This stain was even worse than a slap to his face. Marquis Oban's dignity had been severely challenged and looked down upon. It's just a mere beast, yet it dares to behave so atrociously towards humans. Nowadays, public morals are truly degenerating with each passing day. A frivolous and ear-piercing voice came from afar, accompanied by a large flash of light. 1,000 meters, 100 meters. 10 meters, 1 meter. The light approached at an inconceivable speed, appearing above Marquis Warband's head in an instant. Lightspeed kick. Dustless took advantage of Marquis Warband's dazed state to kick him in the eye. Boom boom boom. The light came and went quickly, but the injuries inflicted on Marquis Warban were difficult to erase. His right eye had traces of burn marks. Ka. The powerful force caused his 30-meter-tall body to lose its balance. Marquis Warban found it difficult to maintain his balance and was about to fall to the ground. So, in the end, Marquis Warban chose to give up and return to his free body. Even though his body looked powerful, it was not easy to deal with. You think this is the end? The floating light in the sky asked coldly. Both of his arms fell at the same time, and a rain of golden bullets fell from the sky. The number of bullets left Marquis Warban completely flabbergasted. Yasukani no Magatama. A large amount of light poured down, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart was chilling. It was filled with despair and coldness. There was no suitable ability to try and stop Dustless. Humph, I want to see how powerful you are. Forced into a corner, Marquis Warban once again spread out his wolf body, wanting to rely on the hardness of his body to withstand the devastation of this move. This guy is really an idiot. He wants to rely on the hardness of his body to resist the Yasukani no Magatama. I hope he doesn't turn into a sieve. Dustless sneered. Using another ability at such a crucial moment would only increase the number of places Marquis Warban would be attacked. The curtains of a bloody massacre immediately opened. As time slowly passed, Marquis Warban managed to resist many attacks with his tough body, but it was only a portion of the light bullets. There was still a large number of light bullets waiting for him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Marquis Warban was covered in blood and flesh. More and more scorched holes appeared on the surface of his body. Just from looking at the surface of Marquis Warban's skin, it seemed like he was going to be poked into a beehive. There were holes everywhere. Beep beep beep. Blood continued to drip from Marquis Warban's body. At a closer look, he was already riddled with holes. His abdomen, arms, and even his head had wounds from the attacks. You bastard! Marquis Warban raised his head and stared at Dustless. He had never seen someone so detestable, someone who wanted nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood. You still haven't given up? Dustless frowned and softly said, Fine. Since you want to die so much, I'll reluctantly fulfill your wish, you defeated super scum. You think you can kill me? Marquis Warban laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Even your master Luo Hao couldn't do it, let alone a disciple like you. Try to kill me in your next life. Foolish thing, repent for your crimes. Gathering a large amount of high-density energy in his body, Dustless was serious this time. Gazing at Marquis Warban's miserable face, the smile on Dustless's face growing wider. He really couldn't understand how this old man could resist. Chapter 1441. Marquis Warban had a look of disdain on his face. Although he had been severely injured due to his carelessness, it would still be difficult to take his life. Thus, even though he was ill, he was not afraid of Dustless. At most, it would be a fight to the death and both sides would suffer. You think you can hurt me? Dustless glanced at Marquis Warban, a look of disdain flashing in his eyes. The spiritual pressure all over his body erupted. Looking at the miserable Marquis Warban, Dustless softly muttered, Tao Breaker 90, Black Coffin. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A sharp sound pierced through the air. Warily, Marquis Warban tried to find the source of the sound, but it was too late. Poochie. 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 His already unbearable body was once again covered in bloody scars. The ghastly injuries made one shudder, and Marquis Warban grimaced in pain. Even so, Marquis Warban still stood tall. This guy, his body is very strong. Dustless muttered. It was a miracle that he could still stand after suffering such heavy injuries. Of course, it could also be seen that this old man's strength was extraordinary, and that he was very familiar with the various powers he controlled. Now it's my turn to counterattack. Marquis Warban roared, his eyes shooting out waves of oily green light as they locked onto Dustless's head, a sinister smile on his face. Still thinking? Oh, not a bad ability. Dustless nodded. He felt his right arm slowly stiffen, turning into a pure white mysterious crystal, as if it had turned into stone. His blood stopped flowing and he was unable to move. But your eye technique will only be effective for a short period of time against a godslayer like me, Dustless replied indifferently, giving him a deep look as he spoke. What's wrong with this guy? His annoying tone is really annoying, Marquis Warban said. Marquis Warban said gloomily. Dustless's omniscient tone made him feel as if he knew everything, which made him rather unhappy. It doesn't matter if it's effective for a short period of time, it's enough. Staring coldly at Dustless, Marquis Oban smiled cunningly, his face filled with insolence. He increased the output of his eye power, and most of Dustless's body turned into salt crystals in a short period of time. You can't move now. Come out, my lovely servants. Marquis Warban laughed coldly. Countless shadows appeared on the ground. These people had no aura, and their clothes were clearly different from what they were wearing now. Most of them were wearing armor, similar to the attire of European warriors. Although it's only for a short while, I can use this free time to get rid of you. Marquis Oban waved his hand and shouted, Go, my servants. Ao. The servants of death were like mad beasts. They hadn't eaten for many years, and they all viciously pounced on Dustless, wanting to be devoured by this delicious food. These ants are too much of an eyesore. A thick purplish-black python descended from the sky, its bloody mouth opened 360 degrees. Crack. Many of the servants of death were crushed by its sharp fangs, and its thick, sinuous body swayed vigorously. Its strength was so great that a light touch could send all of the servants of death flying. Athena, looking up at the domineering lady standing in the sky, Dustless found that after fusing with the Gorgon stone, she had become stronger and stronger. It was obvious that she had control of this powerful force. You're in a tight spot, Dustless. Athena teased. If you're willing to beg me, I don't mind helping you take care of this hungry wolf. Athena? Marquis Oban was stunned when he heard that. He immediately thought of a god that matched the identity of the peerless girl in front of him, and the greed in his eyes was undisguised. Dustless pursed his lips and said disdainfully, Do you think I can't take care of such a small fry? Besides, pay attention to your identity, my lovely maid. Done talking, Dustless directly shattered his own body, turning into a pile of fragments. Ah, is that guy an idiot? The crystallization of salt can only last for a short period of time, and it will not take long for it to recover. This idiot shattered his own body? Aha, he killed himself. Savage laughter rang through the sky as Marquis Oban mocked Dustless without restraint. What's going on? It's dawn? Marquis Oban, who was laughing maniacally, froze. He suddenly realized that the world in his eyes was dazzling, as if he was suddenly close to the center of the sun, extremely bright. What's there to be surprised about? A ghostly voice rang out. Looking at the source, Dustless's shattered body had recovered. Impossible, you're already dead. Marquis Oban shouted in panic, and there was a rare trace of fear in his voice. No one could accept the sudden resurrection of a dead person. Illusion, it must be an illusion. Marquis Oban denied vehemently. Idiot. Dustless did not say much. He just coldly raised his feet and aimed at Marquis Oban's head. Lightspeed kick. Under the night sky, the glittering gold-plated right leg was especially dazzling. The light, which contained 500 kilograms of force, blasted toward Oban's aged face. Crack, crack, crack. The clear sound of bones cracking could be heard, followed by a black shadow flying backward. Boom, boom, boom. Marquis Oban's appearance was particularly miserable. The bridge of his nose had sunk in, and due to the excessive heat, his cheeks had melted, leaving behind a mark of humiliation, Dustless's footprint. You've offended Marquis Oban. Liliana smiled bitterly. As a European, Marquis Oban valued etiquette. Now that Dustless had left an irremovable footprint on his face, and his opponent was Luo Hao's disciple. Chapter 1442. Perverted Human. Athena could not help but be impressed. If this was the power of a god, then so be it. The key was that Dustless was using his own strength. For a human to reach this level, he was not inferior to a god. Even in the face of Dustless's countless trump cards, Athena was defeated twice in a sorry state. Damn it, damn it, damn it! Marquis Oban touched his rough cheeks in agony. His pale old face was distorted. Being stepped on was far worse than being killed. He had no choice but to accept a tragic reality. He seemed to be no match for Wu Chen. This is a great humiliation. Marquis Oban smashed the floor. Ignoring the intense pain, he suddenly stood up and waved his hand. My loyal servants, chop that brat into pieces. That brat was naturally Dustless. He still hasn't given up on his evil intentions. Athena frowned. Her purple-black gem-like eyes blinked and a crisp sound rang out. Ka-ka-ka. The frenzied army of death servants were all petrified and turned into hard stones. As for Marquis Oban, there was no trace of him. We can't let him escape. It's very troublesome. Erica and Liliana were about to give chase, but Dustless stopped them. He smiled faintly and said, "If that old man is tactful, I'll spare him this time." "Your Majesty, you're too kind," Liliana said unwillingly, but she still retreated. "He's like this sometimes." Erica shrugged. She was used to it. "It's like nurturing a tiger." Athena said bluntly, "If you let a dying wolf go, he might bring back a pack of bloodthirsty tigers next time." "That's really scary." Dustless put on a fearful expression and shrunk his neck, as if he was afraid of what Athena said. "That's not important anymore. Let's go home. Yoli and Jinghua have probably been waiting for us for a long time." After saying that, Dustless took the girl's hands and left happily. Even though no one knew about the battle between Dustless and Marquis Oban, the fact that Marquis Oban had fled back to Europe left an indelible impression on everyone. As expected of my disciple. In the shabby nunnery, the girl's narcissistic and proud murmur could be heard. This was Luo House territory in the depths of Mount Lushan. Ever since Marquis Warban left Europe for Japan, she had sent people to keep an eye on Europe's every move. The news of Marquis Warban fleeing back to Europe in a sorry state had reached Luo Hao's ears immediately. "I heard that Dustless left a footprint on Warban's face." Serves him right." Luo Hao's gentle laughter was as pleasant as the sound of a mountain spring crashing against a rock. She smiled like a beautiful woman. There was no better news than this. Dustless helped her vent her anger. "But that kid's actions are really amazing. Before he became a god slayer, he killed 2 gods. Now he even defeated Marquis Warban. He's not simple." Luo Hao was sincerely impressed. She also thought that she was favored by the heavens. However, compared to Dustless, her achievements seemed to be worthless and not worth mentioning. In fact, when Dustless left Mount Lushan for Italy, Luo Hao had sent people to secretly follow him. She had been paying attention to Dustless's movements at all times. "I heard that he even tamed Athena, the god of disobedience, and made her his servant. That kid is really brave. I even heard that he spanked Athena." Thinking of this, Luo Hao's face was faintly red, and her eyes were somewhat empty. No one knew what she was thinking. At night, the moonlight was like a plate, and the sky was full of bright stars. "Another one? Oh no, if it's Senpai Wanrigu then it's 2. Shizuka Kusanagi sat opposite Dustless with a serious expression. She put on an interrogative expression and said, "Our house is about to become your harem base." Erica, Athena, Liliana, Wanrigu Yoli. Including Shizuka herself, there were exactly 5 women. Dustless moved his mouth and looked at Athena and Erica, hoping that they could explain their pain. However, Erica was elegantly drinking coffee, and Athena was holding a girl's magazine and reading it seriously, as if it had nothing to do with them. "That's too heartless." Dustless complained in his heart, but he still forced himself to explain. "Liliana is my patient. I'm the only one who understands her condition. The others will only cause trouble. As for Wanrigu Yoli, she's my assistant." Dustless casually found a lame excuse and said without blushing or panting. Why did he shove Wanrigu Yoli over? In fact, Dustless also understood Kanajima's thoughts. He just wanted to use him, hoping that something breakthrough would happen. "Isn't your assistant me?" Athena asked in a slightly dazed manner. "You're fired," Dustless said bluntly. "Where were you when I was besieged?" She even tried to poach Dustless. Seeing that Athena was not qualified, he decisively fired her. "What you say doesn't count," Athena said disapprovingly. In the past, she couldn't wait to leave Dustless. Now she had changed her mind. Although she couldn't fight with this old man under the same roof, she wouldn't be bored. It was much better than wandering around in the past. Chapter 1443. Dustless rolled his eyes when he heard this. He suddenly realized that he really had no way to dismiss Athena. When he first joined Qingjia School, he did not receive any news. It was all the fault of the Baldi principal. Speaking of which, what are we eating tonight? Dustless sniffed and suddenly found an unusually pleasant aroma. His mind was also hooked, and his eyes involuntarily swept toward the kitchen. This doesn't seem to be the kind of cooking that Hikari is good at. Dustless was quite curious. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to observe, Erica's voice stopped Dustless. "Liliana is cooking tonight. Her cooking skills are very good, very good." Erica licked her thin lips, revealing an expression of great appetite. "I know that," Dustless nodded in agreement. Then he looked at Liliana, who was frowning and filled with resentment, and said calmly, "But she doesn't seem to be willing." I can feel her resentment in the living room. That's not something I can control. Erica shrugged, showing an expression that said it had nothing to do with her. However, the wicked smile that could not be hidden no matter how hard she tried to hide it showed that this matter was inextricably linked to her. Don't tell me. Erica is really sinister. Wuchen vaguely understood what kind of outrageous things Erica had done. He immediately gave her a hopeless look. Don't tell me that you're threatening Liliana with romance novels again? Dustless's expression was strange, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. It's fine as long as you don't make a fire. If you tear down the house, Hikari will definitely come after me again. Looking at the smiling Hikari Kusanagi, she seemed to be amused by Erica's actions. There was a satisfied smile on her face that had not been there before. Kusanagi Kudo, I took care of your sister very happily. You can rest in peace in the netherworld. Dustless stretched and closed his eyes. He was really tired after the battle with Marquis Warban. At the same time, inside an abandoned warehouse somewhere in Europe, the gloomy and oppressive environment made people despair. Living things were forbidden, and only the squeals of rats could be heard. Occasionally, a dark shadow would pass by, adding to the fear. Salvatore Anthony, the pale old man with oily eyes, said in a low voice, I didn't expect you to keep the appointment. Looking at Salvatore Tony, who was fully armed, he continued, but you may be disappointed. I'm not here to fight with you this time. Uncle Warban, you're not looking for a fight? Aren't you looking for me for revenge? That was really disappointing. After all, I've snatched your prey. Salvatore Anthony was quite surprised. There was a slight fluctuation in his tone. He immediately looked at the looming footprints on his face. It seems that you have suffered a great loss when you went to Japan to deal with the God Slayer. Thick killing intent flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes, but he suppressed his rage and hoarsely said, I will definitely settle this score with that guy called Dustless and Luo Hao. Settle this score? Salvatore Anthony curled his lips and said disdainfully, I heard that Dustless is Luo Hao's apprentice. You can't even beat her apprentice. Do you think you have a chance of winning with Luo Hao? Of course not. Without even thinking about it, Marquis Warban admitted frankly and replied, that Dustless is very strong. I even suspect that he is stronger than Luo Hao. If Dustless were here to hear this, he would definitely give a thumbs up and say, you have good taste. Stronger than Luo Hao. Hearing this, Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with surprise. Luo Hao was a famous Valkyrie, and Dustless was just her apprentice. Moreover, Dustless had been a god slayer for less than a month. It sounded like a fantasy that he was stronger than a god slayer who had been around for more than 200 years. This is an undeniable fact. Despite his reluctance, Marquis Warban had to admit that he was ambushed. However, in this world there was only victory and defeat. Who cared about the process? And the most tragic thing was that Dustless had a super follower like Athena. Therefore, Marquis Warban was destined to end up in a miserable defeat. That's really exciting. Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with a fiery light. He could not wait to grow wings and fly to Japan to fight with Dustless. He took the bait. Marquis Warban laughed secretly. Salvatore Anthony was not interested in anything, but when it came to talking about a battle, he would pay more attention. By the way, why did you ask to meet me in private? Salvatore Anthony frowned and asked, don't tell me you want to work with me to find trouble with Dustless? Why can't I? Seeing that Salvatore Anthony had seen through his intentions, Marquis Warban admitted, Dustless is very strong, and he has a god follower, Athena, who is extremely powerful. In addition, he has a master, Luo Hao. Who can defeat such a person in a one-on-one fight? Only if we form an alliance can we have a chance of winning. Find a god's follower? Salvatore Anthony widened his eyes and asked in disbelief. The gods were extremely arrogant. They would not bow down to anyone, and the god slayers were no exception. Before the god slayers killed the gods, they were just ordinary humans. Chapter 1444. Dustless naturally did not know about the premeditated plan of Warban, the Marquis, and Salvatore Tony. Of course, if he knew, he would not care. Anyway, life was boring enough, and it would not be a bad thing if someone came to provoke him. Do you want to join forces with me? Salvatore Anthony asked seriously, grasping the key point. Of course. Marquis Warban nodded and said, he is too strong. I can't deal with him alone, and I don't think you can either. Don't compare me to you. Salvatore Tony said coldly, and at the same time he was also very interested in Marquis Warban. In any case, one thing was undeniable. Dustless seemed to be very strong. If it was as Marquis Warband said, the situation was very unfavorable for them. Dustless, Luo Hao, a super god, and two powerful knights, such a combination was invincible. Then I will join forces with you. Salvatore Toni finally gritted his teeth and said. He was very interested in Dustless. Time flew by, and the next morning, a large group of people set off from Shizuka Kusunagi's house. Athena was Dustless's assistant, so naturally she was always by his side. As knights, Liliana and Erika, Shizuka Kusunagi and Wanrigu Yoli were also always by his side. They're going to cut me into pieces. Dustless was speechless and smiled bitterly. He found that everyone was looking at him with envy, jealousy, and hatred, as if he was a thorn in their side. Athena, pay attention to your image. Dustless coughed dryly. Because he had given the Gorgon stone to Athena, she had always maintained the appearance of 18 or 19, and was no longer the 12 or 13-year-old child she used to be. She was very close to Dustless, and her body exuded a very strong fragrance, tempting Dustless's nerves. Athena herself was very cold, and gave people the feeling that they wanted to conquer her. What's the matter? Athena turned her head and looked at Dustless. She did not hide her doubts. I also want to ask you, where did you come from? Athena raised her head and revealed a thoughtful expression. Her adorable look was quite cute. Athena, who was known as the goddess of wisdom, had a very different look when she revealed this expression. It had a different style. Can you stay away from me? I might be swallowed alive by Erika and Liliana. Dustless leaned close to Athena's ear and said gloomily. His eyes fell on the heads of Liliana and Erika, and his eyes were filled with resentment. No matter when a woman saw the man she liked talking and laughing with another woman, she would always be dissatisfied. Sigh. Seeing this, Athena did not restrain herself. Instead, she deliberately pulled Dustless closer and revealed a naughty smile. She whispered, I suddenly found a good way to defeat you. Defeat me? Dustless couldn't help but laugh. His eyes were full of disdain as he said disdainfully, with your level, it's too embarrassing for you to deal with me at my peak. Is that so? Athena turned a deaf ear to Dustless's arrogance and responded with a chuckle as if it didn't exist. At this moment, Athena suddenly stood in front of Dustless and licked her red rose lips. The sly smile on Athena's face deepened. What do you want? Erika and Liliana were on guard at the same time. When Athena wasn't around, it didn't matter if they had internal strife. But when Athena was an unprecedented enemy, Erika and Liliana had to work together to deal with her. Oh! Athena looked at Dustless shyly with a shy expression. Her red face revealed two drunken blushes. Not only that, Athena's emotions were mixed with a trace of resentment, reluctance, and complicated emotions. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? Why is she showing such an expression? She looks like a resentful woman. I didn't do anything wrong to her. Dustless complained. Athena's expression gave him the illusion that he had mercilessly had sex with her and then abandoned her in the end. Athena, what exactly are you? Wu Chen's words stopped abruptly. Suddenly he felt a chill on his neck. He turned his head and saw two ferocious eyes that were more ferocious than those of wild wolves. They were glaring at him furiously. It was Erika and Liliana. Are you not going to take responsibility for what you did to someone else? Erika asked with her beautiful eyes spitting fire. Her starry eyes were filled with hatred. She said, abandon Athena. Even if you are the king, I won't let you off. Erika slashed her sword. Fortunately, Dustless had elementization. Otherwise, he might really end up with his head separated from his body. Me too. Then Liliana also stabbed her sword at Dustless's throat without holding back. But fortunately, the elementization ability still worked, helping Dustless easily dodge this terrifying sword attack. Stop right there. Don't be fooled by him. Dustless's mouth twitched. He finally understood what Athena's words meant. What the F***ck? What the F***ck? She was using her chastity to trick Dustless. Erika and Liliana, who were full of righteousness, would certainly not let him off. Explain it to me clearly, Dustless said gloomily, wishing he could swallow Athena alive. Athena was even more embarrassed. She blushed and said, how can that kind of thing be explained clearly? The process is not important, but your long-cherished wish of me giving birth to your child is real. Fine, I'll make your act real when we get back to school and make your dream come true, Athena. Dustless cursed while dodging the attacks of the two women. Chapter 1445. Athena smiled faintly as she observed Dustless, who was besieged by Erica and Liliana. She had a cunning look of excitement on her face, just like a child's. Sure enough, no matter who he was, he had a weakness that no one knew about. This guy is very protective. Athena's eyes flashed as she watched Dustless, who was being chased by the two women and only cared about explaining himself without fighting back. She finally felt a sense of belonging to Dustless. It could be seen that Dustless was an extremely protective person. Only a protective person would value the people around him and not allow anything to happen to them. Athena admired Dustless's protective personality. If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Otherwise, you'll deduct your salary. Athena ignored the playful crowd and left Dustless with a beautiful back view. Glancing at Athena, who was skipping away, Dustless felt like swallowing her alive. You're not the one who was framed. Not only did you not help me, but you're also that damned murderer. At the same time, in another direction. Not long after Marquis Oben left Japan, he made a comeback. Of course, this time he brought with him a powerhouse who was strong enough to ride side by side with him. The other God-slayer, Salvatore Anthony. According to the previously agreed plan, the two of them would work together to deal with Dustless. Marquis Oben also promised that this time, he would definitely defeat Dustless and wash away the humiliation. That's right. As soon as they walked out of the airport, Marquis Oben said solemnly, I still need to prepare some tools. You go deal with Dustless first. Prepare things? What a coincidence. Salvatore Anthony said doubtfully. He was still wary of Marquis Oben. This old man was mysterious and sinister, and his personality was as cunning as a wolf. Are you afraid of Dustless? Marquis Oben took the opportunity to mock him. Scared? Upon hearing that, Salvatore Tony curled his lips and said domineeringly, maybe I'm not as strong as him, but the word fear has never been in my dictionary. Even if you didn't say it, I'd still want to meet him personally. Dustless is a teacher of Qingjia Academy, right? I'll go first. Salvatore Tony carried the wrapped sword and left. He was full of fighting spirit towards Dustless, especially the mocking tone of Marquis Oben, which made him quite unhappy. Although he had only been a godslayer for a few years and might not be very strong, he was definitely not weaker than someone who had just become a godslayer. Young people are really gullible. Marquis Warband couldn't help but laugh. Looking at Salvatore Tony's disappearing figure, his hidden cunning smile was completely exposed. Idiot, Dustless's strength is unfathomable. If you go, you'll end up like me. Touching the footprint scar on his face, Marquis Oben, who was already terrifying, became even scarier. Besides, putting aside Dustless's strength, do you still remember that Dustless has the goddess of battle, Athena, by his side? Therefore, Marquis Oben felt that he had no chance of winning from the very beginning. Even if he and Salvatore Tony put aside their previous enmity and joined forces, he didn't think that he had a chance of winning against Dustless. Therefore, he deliberately found an excuse to trick Salvatore Tony into dealing with Dustless and Athena, hoping to buy him some time. Marquis Oben said that he had found a way to defeat Dustless, and that he didn't have the ability to fight back. Salvatore Tony, don't die before I complete my plan. Marquis Oben laughed sinisterly, revealing his dazzling white teeth. This alliance was actually just Marquis Oben, who was helpless, using Salvatore Tony. Chapter 1446. Marquis Woben was hundreds of years old. Compared to him, a novice godslayer like Salvatore Tony was always simpler. In his world, there was only fighting and he was not good at scheming. Idiot, Dustless has such a strong faction. Even if we join forces, we will only be begging for trouble. It's fine if we fail once, but I don't want to fail twice in a row at the hands of one person. Marquis Woben's expression was cold, and his whole body exuded a resolute temperament. He then followed Salvatore Tony without turning his head, treating this guy as a rash vanguard. He just had to secretly carry out the plan behind his back. Qingjia Academy's healthcare room. Humph, Miss Athena, although I'm very good at this, I absolutely can't tolerate others slandering me for no reason. The healthcare room, oh, perhaps it could no longer be called a healthcare room. The large room was filled with a transparent enchantment, and Dustless and Athena were trapped in it. Slandering me? Athena showed a blank expression and said innocently, I'm not that kind of person. Have you been beaten silly by Erica and Liliana? Don't play dumb with me. Wu Qin snorted rudely and said loudly, when did I ask you to give birth to a child? You falsely accused me and caused me to be hunted down by Erica and Liliana. Shouldn't you take responsibility? After saying that, Dustless had an unlucky expression on his face, and Athena's expression had nothing to do with him. So it's because of this. Athena showed an enlightened expression, and then nodded indifferently. Damn, can you not be so natural? Dustless complained in his heart. Athena had tricked him, but she did not show any signs of awakening. Instead, she looked frivolous and indifferent. So much so that Wu Qin really had the thought of doing him. Do you dare to deny that you have no thoughts about me? Athena asked calmly as she stretched lazily. Men were possessive of beautiful women, and 99% of men were like this. Besides, Athena was confident in her appearance, and her identity as a god could turn men into beasts. I did have an idea, but I didn't do anything. Dustless was extremely speechless. What kind of bullshit logic was this? Could it be that when others fantasized about you, it was the same as forcing you to have children? Wasn't this a little too shameless? The two of you are in a good mood. You even have the time to flirt now. Dustless and Athena were stunned. They looked at the source of the voice and saw a handsome young man standing outside the barrier. Salvatore Anthony? Dustless asked in confusion. He was quite surprised. He had no dealings with this fellow, and neither of them knew each other. However, Salvatore Tony carried a wrapped sword on his shoulder, so he thought he was up to no good. Dustless had long known that this fellow was belligerent, but he did not expect him to come knocking on his door just a few days after he became a godslayer. He was especially annoyed that someone had taken the initiative to barricade his house. Do you know me? When Salvatore Tony heard this, he immediately became smug. He said to himself with a smile of exultation, could it be that my reputation has spread to a place like Japan? However, after a few seconds of narcissism, he was annoyed by Dustless and Athena. Who knows a little pawn like you? If you don't want to die, get away from me. Dustless and Athena jumped into the same trench from opposite sides. Both of them said unkindly to expel Salvatore Tony. Athena and Dustless had a personal grudge, and it was not up to an outsider to intervene. Especially a godslayer who had inexplicably invaded other people's territory. What was he trying to do? This was a blatant provocation. You too. Salvatore Tony's smiling face froze. It was the first time in his life that someone had asked him to get away. Are you not convinced? Sensing the fleeting murderous intent in Salvatore Tony's eyes, Athena said disdainfully, what's so special about a godslayer? In fact, it's just SOSO. Dustless did not say anything. Although Athena's tone was arrogant, it was undeniable that as a Trinity god who had regained all her strength, she had the right to look down on others. These two are really domineering. They don't take me seriously at all. Salvatore Tony had an unlucky look on his face. He realized that he had come at the wrong time. He had become Dustless and Athena's punching bag. Why are you here? You don't know anyone here and no one welcomes you. I have a personal matter to settle now. You can go back now. Glancing at Salvatore Tony, Dustless did not hesitate to expel him. He was framed by Athena for no reason, and this debt must be settled. Sorry, it's impossible for me to go back because I also have a personal matter to settle. Salvatore Tony smiled brightly, but the temperature around him dropped to freezing point. Sure enough, this guy is here to die. Dustless and Athena said at the same time, mocking Salvatore Tony for overestimating himself. This guy was obviously here to die. The corner of Salvatore Tony's mouth twitched violently. At first, he thought that it was pure nonsense for a godslayer and a disobedient god to be together. Now it seemed that it was not the case. There was a reason for it. At the very least, her ability to look down on others was outstanding. I am here to challenge the two of you. Salvatore Tony's patience was exhausted. He looked at Athena with glowing eyes. Of course, I don't care if someone gives away their power for free. Chapter 1447. Challenge us. Hearing this, Dustless and Athena were both stunned. A few seconds later, the two laughed, ignoring Salvatore Tony's livid face. Challenge us both? Just by yourself. Dustless's face was full of contempt. It would be good enough if Tony could take on either him or Athena alone. It seems that this kid is so confident because he wants to take on both of us. It's too funny and stupid. What's so funny? What's wrong with me challenging both of you? Hearing the two's unscrupulous ridicule, the enraged Salvatore Tony roared at Dustless and Athena. These two adulterers look down on me too much. What's more, who told you that I'm alone? Let me tell you too clearly, I have a powerful ally. Salvatore Tony changed the topic and said proudly, there is another godslayer who has allied with me. Allied? Dustless's smile came to an abrupt end. He could not help but frown deeply. After thinking about it, he did not offend anyone except Marquis Oban. He immediately asked, "Could it be Marquis Oban who lost to me?" "Yes, it's him." Salvatore nodded slightly and replied loudly. "Oh." Marquis Oban, who was secretly watching the situation, vomited blood. This idiot who only knows how to fight. Sure enough, it was wrong to cooperate with him. I was really blind. Marquis Oban's internal organs twitched fiercely. This idiot is too honest. Why are you so obedient? Dustless asked you to die, so why didn't you die? No matter what, let's capture the weakest few first. That way it will be equivalent to my victory. This guy is too much. A Godslayer actually values such boring things as feelings and bonds. You are really rotten. Marquis Oban grinned and sneered, revealing his white teeth. He was as terrifying as a vampire. Looking at Dustless, his eyes were full of endless contempt. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After observing for a few more seconds and confirming that Dustless, Athena, and Salvatore Anthony would not get in his way, Marquis Warban left silently. He had secretly captured Erica, Wanli Guyoli, Liliana, and the others. The three of them were the weakest, so it would be easier to threaten Dustless after capturing them. Although his reputation would be ruined in the future, Marquis Waban had already lost his rationality due to the flames of vengeance. Thinking about the glaring footprint that Dustless had left on his face, Marquis Waban was furious. Bring it on. On the other side, Dustless crooked his finger, and the expression of looking at trash made Salvatore Tony's mouth twitch wildly. He did not even use his authority and directly rushed over with his fist. Ka-ka-ka. His body erupted with endless impact, forcibly tearing apart the barrier set up by Dustless. That's all. With a cold snort, seeing how fragile the barrier was, Salvatore Tony's confidence exploded. He gathered explosive force in his feet and charged over. You overestimate yourself. Shaking her head slightly, Athena turned her head away. She could not bear to see the scene of Salvatore Tony being beaten up by Dustless. The two of them were completely different existences. This barrier was set up by Dustless casually, so it was very fragile. The original intention was to prevent Dustless and Athena's conversation from being overheard. It did not think of defending against the enemy, so it was understandable that Salvatore Tony tore it apart forcefully. Repent, arrogant brat. Salvatore Tony jumped up, clenched his hand into a fist, and used the falling force to punch Dustless's face with all his might. Funny. Glancing at Salvatore Tony with pity, Dustless casually raised his palm and effortlessly caught the incoming fist. His arm that was as slender as a willow branch was unexpectedly strong. Salvatore Tony struggled for a long time but could not escape from the restraint. How is this guy so strong? On the surface, Salvatore Tony remained calm. However, he was frowning in his heart. As a close combat warrior, it was understandable that he had great strength. However, Dustless had nothing to do with this profession. Moreover, Dustless seemed to be very good at close combat. He had easily subdued Tony. His grappling skills were outstanding. This made Salvatore Tony involuntarily think of a person, Hierarch Luohao. Is he really Luohao's apprentice? Salvatore Tony speculated. When he heard Luohao say that Dustless was her apprentice a while ago, he just laughed it off. He thought it was a deliberate target to attract Marquis Warban's firepower. Now, judging from his grappling skills, it might be true. However, just as Salvatore Tony was thinking hard, Dustless launched a counterattack. Bang! Gently lifting his right foot, Dustless kicked Salvatore Tony's groin. Ow 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 ow. Immediately afterward, Salvatore Tony's hysterical screams spread through the sky. His old face turned green and he rolled on the ground in pain. Athena, who couldn't hold back her laughter, laughed out loud. Her red face was like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. Scoundrel, I will kill you. Salvatore Tony was furious. The fire in his words was enough to burn a human to death. He glared at Dustless fiercely, and his eyes were as terrible as a dying beast. This bastard is too despicable. He doesn't know the rules at all. What if he becomes a cripple? Salvatore Tony grimaced in pain, covering the most important part of the man with both hands. If it weren't for the fact that they were in public, he would have taken off his pants to take a closer look. Chapter 1448. Dustless looked at Salvatore Tony, who was rolling on the ground. His clean expression was indifferent. This guy is just a clown used to attract firepower. It's just that he's too naive and likes to fight, so he doesn't realize it. Marquis Warban. That old guy made his own choice. I wanted to let him go this time, but who would have thought that he would continue to court death? Since he likes to play with fire so much, I'll burn him to death this time. The dense killing intent caused one's heart to palpitate. Dustless's cold face was almost covered with a thin layer of ice. Bastard, I won't let you go either. How dare you? Salvatore Anthony glared at Dustless with fire in his eyes. This guy is too arrogant. His means are too vicious. He actually wants to end my bloodline. Athena, did you see that? He can still talk. It means that I wasn't ruthless enough just now. Dustless pointed at Salvatore Tony and said to Athena. Salvatore Tony snorted and did not give a reply. Boring. Athena rolled her eyes at Dustless. Then she turned her head away as if she didn't see anything. However, the corner of her eyes swept around Salvatore Tony, and a faint smile hung on the corner of her mouth. This guy is obviously here to make fun of me. You will definitely pay for this. Salvatore Anthony gritted his teeth and stood up. His eyes were full of devastation as he stared at Silver. Light flashed across the corners of his eyes from time to time. He seemed to be thinking about which angle to launch a sneak attack on Dustless. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. Dustless's body flashed with a huge flash. Golden light flashed, and in the next second, his shining little foot mercilessly greeted Salvatore Tony's abdomen. Lightspeed kick. The powerful force that could destroy heaven and earth smashed on Salvatore Tony's body with endless impact. It doesn't feel right. Why does it feel like I'm kicking steel? Dustless looked at Salvatore Tony in surprise. After this attack, he only took a few steps back. Silver's right foot was also numb. At the same time, Athena also noticed Salvatore Tony's abnormality and stared at him with burning eyes. It should be his authority. Athena guessed, a strange light flashing in her eyes. Her tone was filled with admiration. She knew Dustless's strength. Salvatore Tony was not bad to be able to withstand this sleep. You will soon pay the price for underestimating me. Salvatore Tony was like a proud eagle. He had finally recovered some of his shattered self-esteem. Of course I know that this is his authority. Dustless rolled his eyes and glared at Athena. Did she really need to ask such a simple question? She made him look like a newbie. This should be the authority you usurped from the Norse hero Siegfried, the steel protection. It turns your body into steel. No matter if it's weight or hardness, it will be incomparable. It will greatly increase your weight and will not be easily blown away. With such a body, it will also be very effective in attacking the enemy and defending. Dustless explained calmly with an expression that said, "You can't hide anything from me." Go. Are you kidding me? What kind of pervert is this guy? How did he recognize my authority so quickly? Salvatore Tony's mouth twitched violently. He stared at Dustless in disbelief with his eyes wide open. This is simply cheating. Even if you are shameless, you should know when to stop. Dustless, this guy. Not only was Salvatore Tony stunned, but Athena also looked at Dustless in shock. Judging from Tony's shocked expression, Dustless was obviously telling the truth. It seems that the winner and loser have been decided. Athena felt that Dustless was difficult to deal with. At the same time, she looked at Salvatore Tony with pity. As long as Athena took out Velislana's golden sword to deal with him, this authority would be considered useless. A blind cat meeting a dead mouse. You are just lucky to be able to identify the source of my authority. Salvatore Tony retorted with a red face. There seemed to be no other explanation other than a blind guess. After all, it was impossible to say that Dustless could foresee the future. Also, Salvatore Tony changed the topic and sneered, "So what if you can understand my authority? You can't break it anyway. I'd like to see how you can defeat me." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. There was a violent explosion in the air. A black shadow could be vaguely seen rushing towards Dustless. You are too full of yourself. Athena sighed softly. She had seen the miserable appearance of Salvatore Tony being beaten up. If he knew Dustless's authority, he might not be so arrogant. Athena's watery eyes moved to Dustless with interest. She originally thought that Dustless would take out the golden sword to defeat the enemy. Who would have thought that Dustless's sudden move would subvert her understanding of him? Hey, you want to be my opponent? I say you think too highly of yourself. Dustless did not dodge. His annoying face was still trying his best to humiliate Salvatore Tony. Go to hell. Salvatore Tony was furious. His powerful fist blasted towards Dustless's face. Bang bang bang. Dustless's body was like seawater, being beaten into pieces in an instant. What's going on? Salvatore Tony was stunned. It was the first time he had seen such an unexpected scene. Shouldn't a person be torn apart after being beaten down? So what? Anyway, I am a man of steel. You can't hurt me. Although he did not understand what tricks Dustless had used, he was relieved when he thought of his own ability. A man of steel could defend against most attacks. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.